Hey, this is Stephen Amell, and you are listening to Tomorrow's Legends, the podcast. Don't fail your city.
You think you know the story. You've heard it 100 times. But this is not the tale that you know. For this part of the story has yet to be written. Join Flash, Harley, and X-Force 11 as they take the Wave Rider into the near future and check in on some old friends. This is the new adventures of Superman and Lois, as chronicled by Tomorrow's Legends.
Yes, hello, super fam of steel. Whoa, we haven't said that in a long time, and we haven't heard that intro in a long time. We are finally back in Smallville after so long, and man, it's so good. It's like an old country homecoming without the falling meteors and paths of destruction, of course. And wow, are we right back in the thick of things and the thick of battle as it continues right where we left off from last season in these first 2 episodes, titled The End and the Beginning, and later on we're going to dive into A World Without. I am the anticipating, excited Flash.
And I'm going to ad-lib something because that was a very long intro and I feel like I can't just introduce myself, but I am looking forward with mixed emotions to this season. So good to be back. It's going to be over too soon. I'm Harley Quinn.
Yes, and it is just the OGs tonight. I think X-Force is off. I think he's trying to find a some type of revival cure for Superman, like somewhere in there. I think he went back to where Krypton used to be. He's looking around there if there might be something. I don't know.
Yeah, he's off on a super secret, super special mission, so we might hear from him later and see where he's at.
So, exactly. Gideon, are you with us for the ride this season?
Hello, legends.
Oh, there she is. All right. 10 episodes of Superman and Lois, and then it'll be all over. Whew.
I know. Oh, don't remind me.
All right. Well, if you are new to this show, you are listening to one of the shows on the Cybercast Network. We are Tomorrow's Legends, just kicking off our Superman and Lois coverage, and we have also done Legends of Tomorrow, Stargirl, X-Men 97, and the Tomorrow People. Also on the network is Dive into DC with the Silver Fox and Green Butterfly, and they cover everything DC related. They are headlong into the Penguin TV series right now. And then also there is the Mandalore podcast, which covers all the Star Wars on Disney+. So check those other shows out if you're new to the network, and we're glad to have you. Let's dive into some news. Looks like X-Force threw some news on the board before he flew off into the galaxy.
I know.
We interrupt this podcast for a special report.
All right, you take it away.
Oh my goodness, you're going to make me do the news? I don't know that this has ever happened. All right, well, Elizabeth Henstridge is set to return to Superman and Lois to direct an episode of Season 4. Woo! Who's excited? She will also star in the show as Lex's daughter, which thankfully we've watched both episodes, so we already know this information without being spoiled. So yay. We'll talk about this more, but of course we get to see a photo of her on Lex's wall. So
I love Elizabeth Henstridge so much. For those of you that don't know, she was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for the entire 7 seasons, and she is one of our favorite characters and one of my favorite stars from all of this superhero action TV. I got to meet her in person. She is just the sweetest thing and super friendly. So she's awesome.
She is so awesome. I loved her on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know that she's done a lot of directing in the Arrowverse, which has been interesting since S.H.I.E.L.D. had ended. I haven't seen her in a whole lot else recently, so I'm very excited to have her back on my screen.
Yeah, me too.
All right, well, next up, we have our Jon Stewart for the Lantern series, and apparently he is no stranger to DC TV. I did see this drop in the Facebook group, so there is more information there if you're curious. And it is Aaron Pierre.
I don't know who that is.
I didn't know who that was either. But Jeff does. Apparently, he played Dev M. I believe that was on Krypton, if I saw that correctly in the Facebook group.
Okay.
He was also in The Underground Railroad and Genius, where he played Malcolm X.
Huh.
So,
okay.
I have never seen either of those films either, but
me neither.
I'm sure they're wonderful. And so I'm excited to see him. Excited to see Jon Stewart. Love it. Still a little sad it's not going to be David Ramsey after all. But I know that was like a pipe dream of pipe dreams, but still.
It should be. I mean, David Ramsey would have been perfect.
He would have been good, but it's okay. Yeah. We're clearly Aaron Pierre is very well credentialed, so we're gonna see what he can do. Okay. And there's a TV Line article that he has linked. I think it's also in our Facebook group where James Gunn also confirmed that Kyle Chandler is our Hal Jordan, who I don't really know him either, but he is cute.
Well, Kyle Chandler, he's most known from Friday Night Lights, the TV series. It went for 5 seasons. He was the coach.
I didn't watch that.
Oh, okay. I mean, if you like at all the all-American football story, that show is just fantastic. He's been in so many movies as a supporting actor. You see his face, you'll recognize him. When the news first broke about him possibly getting the role, I was a little bit surprised because he's quite a bit older. So this must be an older Hal Jordan. But when I look at Kyle Chandler, his face does not look like Hal Jordan to me. I would never, ever have picked him.
Interesting.
Like, he doesn't look the part, so.
See, I've read a little bit of, like, the Green Lantern comics, particularly in the New 52, but I don't have enough of a background with the character to really be like, oh, yeah, he looks like Hal Jordan, or no, he doesn't. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of could probably make anybody be Hal Jordan. I'd be okay with it.
I'm sure he's going to be fine because he actually is a really good actor, so that he's going to bring a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And good for him. He did another leading role. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Well, let's move into our general impressions and ratings of episode 1, which I already called out. The title is The End and the Beginning.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
All right, we are going to kick it off with Mr. X-Force 11. He did leave us a voicemail to kick off our ratings, and I believe this is probably going to be for both episodes. You and me are breaking it up, but we're going to play X-Forces right now.
Okay, legends, this is X-Force 11 leaving my feedback about the end and the beginning and the world without. Wow, I am just blown away, and honestly, so angry that we are not getting more of this wonderful series. I think it was a very good move to put these 2 episodes back to back on one night. We get reminded of why we love this show. Getting to see the superhero action, but also getting to see the heart and soul of a family addressing issues about living in your parents' shadow, raising up kids, how to move on when a parent has passed, and so much more. And just to see the seriousness of the conversations between the Kents in this episode was just amazing. I am just blown away by Cutlet's portrayal of Lex. It is just so strong and visceral, but yet calculating and cruel. He is just killing it in this role, and I honestly am going to enjoy this season and just take it all in, but yet I am so disappointed that we are not getting more of this. I'm going to give this one 9.75 broken hearts, and I just cannot wait to hear what everybody else has to say about it. All right, this is X-Force 11 signing off, and I'll see you next week.
Well, X-Force, we hated it, and this is the end of the show. Sorry. No, awesome stuff. Cool. I think you're going to be quite excited with what we have to say tonight.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be a fun discussion. I'm super excited. Okay, so we split it up. So I actually had to adjust my ratings a little bit because when I first started the notes, I was putting everything together. So for the first episode, I gave the first episode 9.5 heart-wrenching moments. I think this was a very solid start to the season, and they did a great job with the death of Superman. The death of Superman is a very, very hard one to pull off, and I personally think they knocked it out of the park. Well, at least the death part. So we had some really great fight sequences in this first episode. It ends, of course, with Clark/Superman's death, and then all of the lead up into that and all of the emotion. So well done. I also really enjoyed how they filled in the story with flashbacks so that they didn't have to burn through the whole fight with Doomsday up front, because they kind of make it seem that way at first, and I was definitely worried that that's how it was going to go, that everything was going to be done in the intro because of how we left off last season and knowing we were going to start with that. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's going to be one and done. How are they going to do this? And so I liked how they did that to kind of draw that fight out, so we were able to get a little bit more from the fight without totally blowing budget. Overall, very well done, very well put together.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. There really is not a lot to knock on this episode for this premiere comeback episode for sure. I'm right there with you guys. 9.5 could have been the finale. This premiere comes smashing through our TV screens like the end of an era and the end of Superman, as if it was the finale and we had to say goodbye. Could you imagine if this is how they ended it, with Superman being killed? I mean, it certainly could have been done and it would have rocked the TV world, but it just had finale feeling to it all the way through, and yet it's just the beginning. It's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whew. Well, we got a lot of points to talk about, so I kept my breakdown short because we're going to talk all about it throughout the show. Let's dive into Season 4, Episode 1 of Superman and Lois. All right, you get to lead the charge on Episode 1.
I do, and it just kind of worked out that we'll end up switching in the next episode. So we are starting off with Superman v. Doomsday. So we started where we left off, of course, which was a very good refresher. It's been a very long time, the end of last season very specifically, since I had watched this scene. So it was good to put me back in the headspace of feeling the high stakes of this fight, right? Thought it was an interesting storytelling device to kind of make it seem like the fight ended right at the beginning of the episode. They kind of clash, and then the way that they have the cape and the way that they come up on the cape and with the earth in the background, it was just really, really well done. And so I like that they were able to actually continue that and cutting between the scenes until the very end, so that we got a little bit more fights.
Yeah, I actually went back and watched the finale of last season again, and then I went right into this premiere. So I actually watched 3 episodes in a row to prepare for this, because I wanted the whole thing to be so fresh for me. I wanted to be right, because I remember how it ended and it left us in complete shock, and I wanted to regain that emotion again, that connection to this show. So I was ready for the finale, and man, it was very cool that it seamlessly, like you said, flowed right into the premiere. And I'm so glad they did that so we could see what happened and how Superman was beaten. I would have been so upset if we came back after all this time and we get a 2-month time jump and it says on the screen 2 months later, and that's how they start everything, and we never really got to witness what happened to the end of the fight, because a lot of shows would have done that. This one,
shows would have done that.
Yeah. This one seamlessly, because if you remember where last season ended was when Doomsday and Superman were on the moon, and Doomsday's jumping at him, and Superman's flying at him, and just before they collide, that's where it cuts to black. And this one picked up that exact same scene a few seconds before. We got to rewatch it, and then the camera zooms up over top of them, and we just continue the scene.
Yes.
As if nothing. Like you can't even say there was a second break. It didn't. It continued right through. It was crazy. So good.
No, I know. It was great. I mean, that clearly was something that they had filmed, and I feel like had put the whole thing together and then saved part of it, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was really well done. So
it's really cool.
Pleasantly surprised.
That's how you do it, guys.
All right, well, in the aftermath, back on Earth, Jordan actually starts searching for Sam. He's trying to locate his voice because they realize that their grandfather's missing, and he's having a hard time finding him, we learned, because he's gagged, and he's been kidnapped, and he's in some, remote warehouse. So that's why Jordan's having a really hard time hearing and understanding him and trying to figure out what's going on.
I can't even imagine how you pick one voice out of billions on the planet to tune into. I mean, that to me is just nuts. And it's one of Superman's crazier powers that they've really highlighted on the show. We have talked about this for all 4 seasons, that it's never been highlighted so much that Superman can really focus in and pick out one voice around the world. Like, he can hear somebody scolding their child in Japan if he wanted to. It's crazy that he can do that. We've never seen that, I don't think, in the comic books and none of the TV shows or the movies. They've really focused on it in this show, and it just blows me away every time we see it. And I just can't. And Jordan doesn't have the life experience that Clark has to be able to do that. So for him, when he tries to tune in, he still hears, the way I describe it, it's like a radio signal, like an old radio. You're trying to turn the dial, and all the stations are mixing together, and you can't get one. That's what it reminds me of, and he just isn't able to focus in yet. He needs practice, so it's very cool.
It is, I mean, yeah, he definitely needs practice in a lot of things, but that will be a theme throughout our discussion tonight, so.
And speaking of tonight, we're going to have to get you a Superman and Lois background.
Oh, yeah, I know. I went back to my Legends background. I know. I'll, maybe Jeff can find us some fun images. He tends to have all the imagery. So.
I got them behind me over here.
I know. I mean, I have stuff behind me. I mean, we could go with my real background tonight. This is kind of a bit of a tangent. Anyway, I'll continue talking, and then I will mess with it. But
sure.
Back on Earth. Still back on Earth. Jordan confides in John that he's not ready to be a superhero without Clark. And he's kind of starting to doubt a little bit that not only himself, but that Clark can even survive this fight with Doomsday. But John is the one holding out hope. And so this becomes interesting to start looking at how Jordan is in episode 1 versus how he is in episode 2. So just keep that in mind. That's a theme that I'll keep bringing back up.
Yeah. I think you say it somewhere here in the episode. I was quite okay with Jordan in episode 1, but when we get to episode 2, I am not at all. So it'll be an interesting discussion between the 2 episodes. But right here in this moment, this is where I can actually agree with Jordan. When you know your dad is Superman and he is struggling in this fight, and as he said, that look that he gave them, he was scared. And when you see Superman scared, that's a telltale sign that this is not a good situation we're in. Okay. John is the blind one here. He's the one who's throwing just careless, I don't know if the word enthusiasm is in it. Optimism, I guess, is a better word.
I said hope. I mean, hope. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah. To me, it's optimism that has no... I don't know. This situation is dire, and that's why I said I agree with Jordan, because he read Clark's face, and he said, we never see Dad scared. And Dad was scared when he told us to back off. That's something I'm not used to seeing, and if my dad, who's Superman, is scared, this ain't good. So,
yeah.
So I was on his side there, but I agree with you. Jordan is not anywhere near ready. I'm going to just be blunt here. He's just too dumb still, and he doesn't think ahead. He doesn't have that experience. He's very reactive from an emotional level, because he's an emotional kid. And he just reacts, and he doesn't think of the consequences. He doesn't think of what might happen. He doesn't think of the possibilities. He just goes, and it drives me crazy. But at least here in this moment and in this situation and in this episode, I was more on his side than I will be in the second one.
That's fair enough. And that theme will come back for sure.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you.
Yeah.
100%. So I put a different spin on it. So yeah, episode 2 will get interesting, but we'll get there when we get there. Back to this episode. Lois is wondering where Clark is. So, this is obviously, we don't get the reveal until the end of the episode that he dies. Although at this given moment, I guess he's technically not dead. So she kind of uses the ELT, and we're actually given a little bit of momentary hope as we go back to the moon to see that Clark is still engaged in a fight with Doomsday. The battle's not over yet.
Yeah, no, it's not. It amazed me how long this fight went on for. I mean, it seemed like it was days. Because we saw everybody go back to their lives, go about their regular stuff. While they're worrying about Superman, they ended up going back to work. They ended up going back. Days have passed. And it really sinks in how much Superman has expended in energy for this fight. And it's nuts. It's really nuts. And he wasn't getting the recharge from the sun that he needs to stay at full power fast enough, because as the fight went on, he was getting pushed farther and farther away from the sun. And I wonder if that was something that Doomsday knew, because they went out towards the moon and went from the moon even farther away. And we'll talk about it later, what looked like the asteroid belt. They just kept getting farther and farther away, which means Superman farther from the sun, not going to be able to suck up more power and get stronger. So I wonder if that was a tactic by Doomsday to get him away from that. It's interesting.
I definitely think that it was, because you remember who Doomsday actually is, right?
Yeah, Bizarro.
Yeah. So
exactly.
he knew that information. So
yeah,
I think he absolutely was doing that for sure.
Because he's opposite. Yeah, you're right.
He's opposite. So he's not going to get a charge up from
he needs the red sun,
or from the yellow sun. He needs a red sun, which obviously doesn't exist in this universe. But he's also turned into Doomsday now. He's not really Bizarro anymore. But I think somewhere in the back of his head he still knew that information, and I think that was a tactic for sure.
Yeah, and at the same time he was also getting stronger. Every time Superman killed him, he got stronger.
Exactly.
So Superman's getting weaker, losing his power. Doomsday's getting stronger, so that the tide of the battle was slowly switching, and Doomsday was getting ahead of it. And Superman can only do so much. And like I said, they were on the moon, and I'm just assuming that was the asteroid belt that they went to next, because the fight seemed to end in the asteroid belt. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, they kept getting further away.
Because the asteroid belt is between Mars and Jupiter, so they kept getting farther and farther away. It's not like they smashed a planet up or anything. I'm pretty sure that was the asteroid belt. It's really the only answer. They didn't go any farther than that. So
yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. Now, did you know, speaking of Doomsday and him being Bizarro, did you notice that he still had the backwards S on his chest? I didn't catch that in the season finale. I only picked it up on this episode. I was like, I wonder if that grew out, if that because every time he died, he grew more. So I wonder if that kind of came out a little bit later. But just interesting that he's still, I'm Doomsday now, but I'm also Bizarro underneath all of this.
Yeah, no, it was definitely there in the finale, and Clark knew it, because as soon as he sees Doomsday, he notices the backwards S, and that's when he says, "What did he do to you?"
Yeah, what did he do to you?
Yeah, and that's why he says that, because he knows who Doomsday really is. So yeah,
exactly.
for sure. I loved that detail, and I like that they made sure to retain it moving through this episode as well.
It's really, really cool.
All right, so we've arrived at the final showdown, and we think maybe, or at least I did, that Clark might just take out Doomsday, along with kind of sacrificing himself. And he has the laser vision and is giving it everything he's got, one last hurrah, big explosion in space, which I'm choosing to ignore. But we soon see that that's not the case. Superman is dead.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the good stuff there for a second. Like that.
I know.
That was definitely a power-up of all of his heat vision to turn it into what it looked like to me was some type of nuclear blast. Like, he seemed to be powering it up because he had his eyes closed. And he was, like, building up the charge. When Doomsday got close enough, he let everything he had out. And it essentially created a nuclear explosion. That's what it looked like, because he figured, this is my last chance. I'm going to give everything I have left and blow him to Kingdom Come. Mm-hmm. And it blew the crap, because he had his back up against a really large asteroid, and it blew the asteroid to smithereens. And he thought it blew up Doomsday, but it didn't even affect Doomsday. Like, I think it killed him, but then he wakes up again anyway. And nothing. There's like no damage to him, no nothing. Like, it effectively does nothing. And Doomsday still is just hanging out there, and Superman is completely knocked out. At least what we thought. We see Doomsday holding on to something, but they don't quite show us what until later in the episode. At this glance, it looks like he's just got pieces of Superman's cape or pieces of his suit or something. Mm-hmm. And they also sneakily covered Superman so they don't reveal, because we all know later on there's a big gaping hole in his chest. But in this shot here, there's an asteroid just conveniently floating by his body as we're looking at the shot, so we don't see the hole in his chest. So I was like, So at this moment, you don't think that was it. The positive note also that I want to say is, like, the effects in these battle sequences, they're top notch. They're full cinematic movie quality. I mean, they should get an Emmy just for the effects here. Because this was stuff you don't, like, some movies don't even look this good. Doomsday looked this good. Looked amazing. The fight looked amazing. They're in space. The effects for the moon and the asteroid and everything that was going on was insane to me. Like, they did such a good job with it. Such a good job. But I do have one little nitpick here in this scene.
Okay.
When Superman was being punched repeatedly into that one big asteroid, and he goes flying in the asteroid, and he's like, kind of laying there. He's like, "Oh, okay, that hurt." He's huffing and puffing. He's breathing really heavily. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, "You're in space, buddy. There's no breathing in space." Every time Superman goes up there, he's holding his breath. He doesn't actually breathe. But when Doomsday punched him, he's like, "You can't breathe in space, man." So that was a bit of quite a big faux pas for everybody involved. Directors, effects people, everything. Nobody looked at that and realized he shouldn't be trying to catch his breath in space, because he can't.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Also very true. But very funny that you're pointing that out. That kind of makes me giggle a little bit.
So
that's kind of like me trying to ignore all the explosions occurring in space that can't occur in space.
Yeah, all the fireballs and stuff. Yeah. Well, doesn't
it's a vacuum. There's nothing there. Well, not that there's nothing there, but you know what?
Fire can happen, but it's extinguished right away. It's just like it'll explode and be gone again because there's nothing there, right?
I mean, my physics is rusty, but I mean, it's inside of a vacuum, so that there's no like oxygen there to necessarily like isn't combustion caused by like I don't know.
Well, that's why you see
chemist. I'm not a chemist. So.
Yeah, that's why you see in some sci-fi movies, if the spaceship is on fire, they try to open an airlock so that the vacuum space can suck it out. Yeah. And extinguish it. So yeah. So anyway, I mean, but that's okay. Like I mean, maybe like little, like I'm okay with little ones. This wasn't like a big, huge. Let's do a giant fireball and like really focus on it. Like it was tastefully done. I was okay with it. Yeah, I mean, the star is on fire, the sun's on fire, so fire can't happen in space when it's got something to burn. But
exactly,
so
well, but it's because it's kind of contained all within like the star, and then like I mean, light like like travels through space and travels through the vacuum. It's anyway. Yeah, this is not Science Hour with Harley, who doesn't remember her science properly because it's been too long at this point.
That's okay. Still.
Anyways.
Yes.
So slight tangent, but we can't talk about the death of Superman and not bring this up. do you remember what a huge, colossal big deal this comic was?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was such a big deal. I was young. I was really young, like 7 or 8 years old. And I distinctly remember, like, what a big deal this comic was. I mean, it's the first one I ever read. Like, I was like, what do you mean? Like, I mean, like, you know who Superman is. And like, what do you mean they killed Superman? And so, like, I borrowed a comic from my friend. And I think it was, like, one of the first ones that I ever read. And I'm pretty sure I've still got a copy floating somewhere around my house, all, like, packed away safely.
If you have an original copy, that's worth some money.
I'm pretty sure that I do. I'm afraid to. So I got it from a friend who didn't know what she had. And she was like, oh, yeah, like, I found these in the attic. Like, is there anything in here you want? Because she knew I was into comics. And I'm like, is that the death of Superman? Can I please have that? And she's like, yes. And I was like, thank you.
Yoink. There's
like,
$500 for me. Thank you.
I mean, I'm not going to sell it. It's, like, sentimental, but it is also, yeah, probably worth a lot of money.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, I think that ultimately is why I always have such a soft spot for this storyline, because it's what got me into comics in the first place. But I don't know. Like, I mean, because it's such a dark storyline, especially for, like, an 8-year-old to be reading. Like, I wouldn't let my 8-year-old read it, but, you know, it was the 90s. It was a different time.
Yes. Well, and you don't even have to be a comic book reader or anything to even have read The Death of Superman. Like, the world knew who Superman was, whether you're into comics or not.
Yes.
Everybody knew who he was. We all saw the movie. We all heard it. Like, it didn't matter. So, and it's funny. Like, I was not as young as you, because it was 1992
yes.
when Superman died, and I was just graduating high school.
Yes. Well,
So-
you know, as we've established, there's a slight age difference between the two of us. Not a giant one,
Yeah.
but a slight one.
No, back then it's kind of funny. So I remember it being such a global event that even the news channels covered it as their main story of the night. That's how epic it was. Like, there's, you know, kids were kidnapped, schools are shutting down, blah, 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 whatever. Superman died! Oh my God!
Superman dies!
And it covered the news. Like, holy crap. Like, the death of Superman. It was insane. And
I know.
I don't know if you knew this or if any of our listeners know this, but The Death of Superman is the best-selling comic book of all time in history.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah.
It's iconic. It's like more iconic than Bane breaking Batman's back, and that's saying something.
Yeah, because Superman was never supposed to die. It was not supposed to happen. And, I mean, he even says it in this show. I'll never die. Don't worry. I'm okay. I can't die. Like,
I know. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Whew. But yeah, I remember for sure. It was insane.
Okay. So the reveal. Superman has no heart. So he is dead. In fact, actually, Luthor has his heart. Fun fact, fun twist of events. We're going to talk about that more in a later section. But what I wanted to bring up in this particular scene, because this is the acting by Bitsy and also I think by both boys, was very top notch. It was extremely believable, and it was heartbreaking. It was well done. It was well put together, well acted, shot, directed, all the things. It was very, very well done. Very good.
Yeah, and again, because I watched the finale to lead into this, I was already wrapped up in the emotion and the intensity of everything. So when this scene hit, it was really hard to go through. Very powerful, very real. They all did amazing jobs, even the kid actors. I've always knocked on the Jordan actor because I think he's the weakest one of the bunch, but he did really well here, and they made it feel believable, and I had tears streaming. I really, really did. This welled me up. Like, even though I knew it was coming, we all knew this was coming. It's Bitsy's performance, and even and Jonathan here too, because Jonathan, what happened to him? What happened to him? Like, he had such panic on his face. It was unbelievable. Just crazy. Yeah.
I agree. So good. Okay. All right, so that we covered the big one right out of the gate. I mean, I feel like we needed to cover it. Talk about the emotion. All right. Well, now we're going to go into another aspect of the episode, and this is the kidnapping of Sam Lane.
Yes.
I have titled them. I'm having fun with my storylines and titling them. So we get to see Sam and his former lady friend. They're kind of verbally sparring here a bit. We think perhaps she might actually still have feelings for him, but as it turns out, she does not. She's in Luther's pocket. She's actually terrified of Luther, which is kind of like hard to compete with that. But thankfully, Sam has his guard back up, and he's not going down without a fight.
I do think she still feels something for him and is maybe thinking about helping him. But my question is, what got her working for Luther in the first place? Because she's a lot older than his usual type of henchman. Unless this was his plan all along, like, I need you to woo the general away from Lois so that we can, grab him, get the information we need out of him, and kill him. Because he's been a thorn in my side for all these years kind of thing, and it would hurt Lois. So I have a feeling that's what it was, because normally he doesn't have 50-plus-year-old women working for him as out in the field as hitmen, so I'm guessing that's what it was. But you're right, it was good to see Sam being back to Sam, because they, over the last season, especially the last little bit of that season, they were really starting to soften him up. He's retired, he's going to be the grandpa, he's going to be a better dad now. Oh, now I'm going to start dating. Like, that's not the Sam Lane that we've known for all these years. I mean, it was nice to see some growth and some change in him, but it was a little bit uncomfortable too, because Sam has always been the tough-as-nails military man that doesn't have feelings. So it was just, it was good to see that come back to being himself. And he's like, that's it. Like you said, my guard is back up. This won't happen anymore or ever again.
Yep, for sure. All right, so we'll come back to Sam in a minute, but kind of wrapped up in this storyline, we have a little bit with the boys as well. So we have John kind of trying to talk some sense into Jordan because Jordan's blaming himself for his grandfather's death, which, by the way, hasn't even happened. So, like, in hindsight, this actually turns out to be an interesting foreshadowing scene for the next episode where Jordan is blaming himself for his dad's death. But right now it's kind of like he's feeling bad for himself because he feels like he got his grandfather killed. But as John points out, we don't know that that's happened yet. So
yeah, and I really thought this was well written for John's story because it gives him some relevance and some importance to the family and the family story, because we were worried over the last season or two that he'd become kind of useless and have nothing to do because they were putting so much into Jordan's story as having the powers. And they gave us, John's getting a job at the fire department. Oh, John's the troubled high school kid. He caused the football team to be canceled. Like, that just was nothing serious for him to really bite into. It's just like, whatever kind of storyline. So this, I really liked, gave him something to be more important, more relevant.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it like kind of paints him as the hopeful twin in this episode. He's holding out hope for a lot of things. So
yeah,
that tends to be
which he has to, because Jordan is the one that collapses to his emotions. He gets depressed real quick. He gets panicky and upset real fast. John has to be the steadfast one. He has to be the pillar of strength, basically.
Exactly.
Considering he has no powers,
well put.
Which is cool.
I know. Yeah. No, I think that's well put for sure.
Yeah.
So going back to Sam, he's trying to plead his case. He's buying some time so that he can actually free his hands. And he hopes that Gretchen, as she was known, even though that's not her real name, kind of comes close enough that he can actually disarm her and escape. Unfortunately, while he is able to take advantage of, like you said, Gretchen potentially having some residual feelings for him, he can he can knock her out and get free, but he forgets about Otis, who's lurking outside, and knocks him out.
Yeah. Now, this is going to sound weird but I actually like that he punches her and headbutts her. Like, he doesn't hold back. I hate in movies when they have the male characters hold back from hitting the female characters just because they're female. If that woman's holding a gun to your face, or if that woman's beating on you with a baseball bat, there's no holds barred here. You fight back to save your life, and his life is on the line, so he didn't hold his punches, and I like that. It's not that I mean I'm approving of hitting women. I'm just saying she's a bad guy. She's got a gun in your face. Do you want to die, or do you want to save yourself? You punch her and knock her out, because that's your only option. Right?
I agree with that. Yeah, 100%. This is not a time to be a gentleman. This is a time to save your life.
And in a world right now with all of this social woke attitude and equality, well, here's equality for you.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of true. And you don't want the double standard. Yeah. I mean, she's kind of a badass. She was going to kill him. I mean, I don't think he should pull any punches. I think he should make sure that he gets to live another day. So.
Exactly. So in these situations, it's all fair. Eye for an eye, male or female. When your life's on the line, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Now, Otis, on the other hand, this is a different version of Otis than we've ever seen, because usually Otis is kind of a bumbling, out of shape idiot. This guy's a bit of an idiot, but he's a gigantic, big idiot, which makes him a formidable version of Otis. So it's kind of fun. I like that Otis was, because we can all think of the original Superman movie with Christopher Reeve. Otis was a bumbling goofball that nobody's scared of. So this was a cool version of Otis. I like this Otis much better.
I like this one much better. That's very funny. I'm struggling to remember any other version of this character at the moment. So I was just like, oh, another henchman. Okay.
If you remember the original Superman movie, it was always Lex Luthor, Gene Hackman, and Otis. Uh-huh. And Otis was the short, fat, curly-haired goof, basically. He was, yes, Mr. Luthor. Yes, Mr. What can I do, Mr. Luthor? Yes, yes. Like he was just a complete pleaser,
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie, so probably need to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Anyways, we cut to Otis and Gretchen, quote unquote, burying Sam alive. Oh my gosh. Not gonna lie, I was 99% sure that Jordan would save him, but they definitely had me going for a minute there. I thought maybe they might just kill him off on screen after all.
I mean, they probably could have, and that would have made this event even more tragic. I mean, the music they had playing sure made you think this was going to be the end of Sam Lane. I mean, we had heard that they were only coming back for guest spots, and we had no idea how much they're going to have to play. Like, they all get a chance to finish their characters. He comes back long enough to be killed off. Like, that would have been tragic.
Yeah, no, I agree. It would have been. And so that's why I was like, I'm pretty sure Jordan's going to save him, but there's that 1%. I was like, they could kill him right here. I mean, they could do it. They could. Oh, but they didn't. Oh, man. Sam, he's poking the bear when he gets confronted by Luthor. I was like, why would you do this? He's kind of like twisting that knife by bringing up his daughter. Like, he knows what he's doing, but I'm not sure what he hopes to gain by this. So I thought that was odd for him to do that.
Sam hasn't always been the wisest guy in a situation like this. Like, he goes off on the mouth because he thinks he can. Because I'm the general of the military, like, I can say what I want. We've seen him in many situations where he doesn't know when to shut up. And this was the original Sam back again. You might have a chance to extend your life here. You might have a chance to get out of this. But no, you have to go open your big trap and piss Luthor off. And now you're dead for sure. That was Sam. Right back to old Sam again.
Oh, dear. Well, good news for him. Jordan and Lois do show up in time. So, Jordan uses his powers in such a smart way this episode, as will be contrasted with the second episode, where he makes several rookie mistakes because his emotions and hubris get in the way. So, we'll talk more about that. But the episode 2 had me yelling at the TV at some points.
We will get there for sure, but you're right.
We will get there.
That was close. I mean, you cannot last long being buried alive with dirt in your face. You have no oxygen. If you try to take a breath, you're going to choke on the dirt. Like, you don't have long to live. You're lucky if you're going to last a minute. If you're able to take a breath and you can hold your breath, because once you exhale, you're going to want to inhale again, and then you're done because you're swallowing dirt. So there was not much time there at all. I can't imagine dying that way. That is very, very scary because you only have moments and you know what's happening. That would just freak me right out. But I agree with you. Jordan was good in the scene. Very smart in how he used his X-ray vision, his speed, and his strength to knock us out even and get to Grandpa, listen to him, find him, see where he is in the dirt, and use your speed and strength to dig through and all that kind of stuff. It's very, very cool. And I also love Lois getting to left cross Gretchen in the face. Like, Lois threw a really good punch. Took her down with one shot, so that was great too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Now, Sam has a little bit too much confidence in the idea of, nothing in the universe can stop Superman. Because that's what he was saying here when he's talking to Lois. He's like, don't worry, nothing can stop Superman, nothing in the universe. But Lois is feeling otherwise, because she's like, it's been days, and there's something here now that can stop Superman. Like, you're a little too... so Sam is kind of being like Jonathan. That both of them have this blind optimism that everything's going to be okay. They don't ever think that one day, sometime in the future, something might show up from the universe. Somebody might create something like Lex Luthor that could potentially stop Superman. There's always going to be somebody studying, somebody wanting to figure out how can we beat him, because that's just the way it is. You got a hero, you're going to have a villain that wants to figure out how to beat him. And Sam and Jonathan are not looking that way. So,
No, I agree. All right. Shall we move on to the flashback scenes?
Oh, yes. Probably my favorite part of this episode is all the flashbacks.
Yeah, we had some really great ones. So we'll kind of roll through these and talk about them. The first one is we get a flashback to moments after Clark reveals he was Superman to Lois. And this was many years ago. And this flashback really shows the strength of their relationship, I think.
This is where the show excels beyond any other CW show and any other Superman iteration and property, and that is the relationship of Clark and Lois. It feels real. It feels so deeply rooted in all of the lore, all of the history of the last 75 or so years that these characters have been around, and we're seeing it like we've never seen it before. Because every other Superman story has been about Superman arriving, Lois meeting him, introducing him to the world, and them flirting and dating, and that's as far as we've ever really gotten. This is now 20 plus years after all of that, so we've never seen this before. These actors are killing the performances, and I mean killing in the most positive way. Time and time again, their performance is so believable, and they absolutely must win, if not at least get nominated for Emmys this year for what they're doing. Both Tyler and Bitsy. Also, the way these scenes are filmed, these historic moments in their life, in the back flashbacks, long before the show even happened, before season 1, there was so much more that was going on. It's truly like we went back in time and we're witnessing how it all started. It's powerful, it's romantic, it makes your heart melt. I love these flashbacks.
I know. I thought they were so well done too.
Like,
really liked
like
them.
even the music, everything. Like I'm willing to give 10 out of 10 for this part of the episodes, how they tied in the history to where we are now in the show. The way they seamlessly mixed it all together was so well done. It was absolutely perfect. 10 out of 10.
Agreed. Totally.
But I do have a joke to ask you about here. Because they're flirting at the Clark house. Like in one of the scenes, they're like, this is the first time Clark's bringing Lois home. And Mama Kent's not around, and Lois is like getting a little, woohoo, let's go have some fun in your old bedroom. And Clark's like, I've never done that before. And she's like, what, in your bedroom? That's okay. And he's like, no, I've never done it before. Like, and wait a second. Superman's a virgin at like 30 plus years old? Really? Wow.
I kind of agree. I thought that was like maybe just a tad strange and kind of a stretch. But also, like, how long have they been together? Like, maybe am I being like too modern? Like, how is it I would assume they've been together for like a hot minute, and
at this point in the storyline, they were, yeah.
They've never.
Clark's a good old country boy, so he's probably not going to go sleeping with someone in the first couple of months of dating. He's probably waiting and all that kind of stuff. So this scene seemed like it was fairly young in their relationship. Because they worked together for a long time before she fell in love with him. And I think this is shortly after they fell in love with each other and started, because he's finally bringing her home. This is the first time he's bringing her home, right? So,
yeah.
But I'm just more shocked. Like, I thought maybe Clark and Lana would have had something, because they did date all through high school, right? So I thought maybe, being young high school kids, like... Right,
exactly. Well, yeah.
But he's a good old country boy, right?
I guess. It was, I was a little bit surprised by that as well, but whatever. We'll go with it. It's fine. It's Superman and Lois. He's supposed to be wholesome and upstanding and all of the cliche 50s things, so we'll just roll with it.
Exactly. And I won't be with a girl until, she's the one, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. Anyways, next flashback. We get to see after they're married, and this is one of the first times that Lois was worried that Clark would be killed. So ultimately, this is what's setting up this final battle, this final showdown between Lois, Clark, and Luthor before they send him to prison. So this scene kind of gives us some hope. You'll notice this theme that maybe Superman could survive after all.
Yeah, and like right after they got married too, she says she's not ready to be a widow yet. And Clark responds with, "That will never happen," like we talked about. He's like, "That'll never happen. I'm not going to die." But talk about, when I rewatched this after we know what happened, like talk about foreshadowing of what he doesn't know. I mean, it was crazy. Like, he's like, "Don't worry, I'll never die. That'll never happen. You'll never be a widow." Well, yeah. you just jinxed yourself in the worst possible way of all jinxes, right?
I know.
Again, something that we have hardly ever seen that I can remember in any Superman thing is he had that piece of kryptonite stuck in his neck.
I saw that.
And that little piece didn't bother him. Lois plucks it out, and he's like, "Oh, how'd that get there?" And she's like, "Well, let me clean you up." And he's like, "Don't worry about it." And then we see the wound actually heal up and close. I know. I don't think we've ever seen that before. We know Superman heals fast, but I don't remember seeing...
Sure? I feel like we've seen, maybe not with kryptonite specifically, but I do feel like we've seen that trick. I don't know. Maybe not.
If on this show, sure, but in any other iteration of Superman, I can't think of it. I don't know. Maybe our listeners can let us know.
Sorry.
Yeah, on this show, sure. Like,
yes,
this show is showing us things that we've never seen before, which I think is really, really cool.
Yes.
So that was kind of neat. But where they also have changed it is that was a little sliver of kryptonite. It's about an inch long. In every other Superman iteration, any hint of kryptonite, even kryptonite gas, would immediately affect him and he'd be weakened. This little piece, he's just like, like I said, where'd that come from? It doesn't seem to bother him.
Right. It was enough that he couldn't, heal right away.
Because it was stuck.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was stuck. So it was preventing him from healing, but it wasn't, actively harming him in any other way. Yeah.
Him.
Yeah. That's definitely different than other iterations, for sure.
So, and that's what's so great about the show is not only are we seeing a point in their lives that we've never seen before, because like I said, this is 20 years after they got married.
Right.
We are seeing, they're writing things into the Superman lore that we've also never witnessed. Him healing and everything else that we've already mentioned. I think that's why the show stands out so well as the best written of all the superhero shows because they're doing things that we've never seen before, and they're just making it part of the lore, and it's just growing the character Superman. Because you think after 75 years, what could there possibly be that's new that they can write for Superman? We've seen it all. Well, this show's proving that we haven't.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's incredibly well done, and they pushed a lot of boundaries, but also sort of like not invented, but like re-envisioned Superman in a lot of ways. And I think it's been very well done.
Right.
I agree with Jeff's sentiment. It's a shame, crying shame that this show is over.
We're going to say that every single week.
I know.
Guarantee.
I know. I'm not bitter. I'm not. I am.
We will all be bitter.
I know. All right, so next, we are flashing back to Lois's real motivations for putting Luthor away. So he was the one who was seeking and hoarding all of the kryptonite to start out with, which I think is fascinating because we definitely asked this question in an earlier season. And I think this is why Sam ultimately ends up with all the kryptonite kind of being on lockdown in the DoD. So we definitely wondered that, like, where does all this come from and why does Sam have all of it? And he's doing all these experiments and it's like a whole weird thing. I think this is why.
Yeah. But first, Luthor with big curly hair from the 70s.
Oh my gosh, right? I was like, this is amazing. That's an awful wig, but this is amazing.
Oh, you know what he looked like? What's that that painter guy that used to have a TV
Bob
show?
Ross.
Yes. He looked just like him.
Yes, but blonde.
Yeah,
and
but
with a
blonde.
beard.
With the exactly. It was so funny. But yeah, once he figured it out, which I wish we saw him doing, and how he found out, because he wanted to gather all of the kryptonite so that he could kill Superman. That's always been his goal. I want to end this alien life so that I can do my world domination. Like, this guy is in my way. That was always his plan. So once he found out where all the kryptonite was, there was nothing that was going to stop him to go get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's fascinating.
There's so much history here. Like, I know people. It's hard to judge who's more popular, Superman or Batman. But me personally, I think the Superman lore and history is way more fascinating, way more fun than Batman. I'm not as big a Batman fan as a lot of people, so I love that they're bringing so much of this in. Like having flashbacks like this in history is what Arrow did so well, and it built so much depth to that show, and we're getting that here too, and it's just it's such good stuff.
I agree.
But we get another flashback to when Lois was pregnant and she has a seizure. I didn't know that was part of Lois's history. I never, ever remember hearing or reading that she had a seizure before. And I wanted to ask you, since you're the recent mom, can that actually happen? Can you have seizures when you're pregnant? Is that like some type of weird side effect?
I think so. So what they actually mentioned as the nurse was leaving the room is a condition called preeclampsia, which is very common in pregnancy and can be extremely dangerous. And given the level of research that this writer's team went through to document her cancer journey, I fully believe that seizures are probably a side effect of preeclampsia. Fortunately, that is not something I ever had to worry about, but it can be a very dangerous situation for both the woman and the child, or children in this case.
Well, yeah, because when you have a seizure, like, a lot of your body functions kind of get paused, like halted, because you're fritzing out electrically. So it's pretty dangerous. It's pretty serious, and so that's why the nurse ran away to go and get the doctor, and that's obviously why Clark is so concerned, and he should be. Like, it's a big, dangerous deal. Yeah, he's like, let me take you to the fortress. Let's fix this.
Yeah, which, I mean, to be fair, like, one, I guess, they don't know that the babies have Kryptonian. But, like, that's very common. I mean, hospitals are extremely equipped to know how to handle and to deal with it. Usually, I think that usually means that you have to get the babies out like ASAP, whether it's through like a C-section or like some sort of, depending on how far along you are, like some sort of like induction to like boost it and like, you know, like really get things going. But it's a really serious, scary thing. So.
Yeah. So the acting here by Bitsy was like the pain, the anger, the impatience, the coming out of a seizure. She went from being confused from the seizure to pregnant anger at Clark. The transition here was Oscar worthy. Like this, screw the Emmys, give her an Oscar, because that you swear she just came out of a seizure. You really thought something just happened, and they just said, keep the cameras rolling. This is great. Like, it was insane. I cannot believe that what these two actors can do together.
I know. And I wonder if, I didn't look this up, but I wonder if she's had children in real life, because that is one of the most believable pregnancy scenes I have ever seen on television, period. Usually they're very fake and mostly unbelievable because they're young actors who've never had kids and they don't know what it's really like. And so they're like overacting and overdoing and just like playing out this drama. But what she said, what she did, was so believable. Like when you are that pregnant and carrying twins on top of it, like her reaction of they're like two little gremlins and they're kicking each other, just get them out. Like that is literally every woman's reaction when you are that far along. Get them out. Get the kid out. Yeah.
I bet.
So good.
And I love
there. It was very good.
I mean, it was intense, but it ended up being funny too, because she's like, "What are you doing? Go get the doctor. Where are you going?
Don't leave. Don't leave me.
How dare you leave me?" Like, and he's like, okay. Oh my God, it was just priceless. These two are perfect together. Like they have to. Yeah. When this show is done, I want Bitsy and Tyler to come together again in some other TV show, in some other movie, and have just another gig together.
Yeah, that would be good. They're very good together. They have great chemistry.
I don't think I've seen any chemistry any better than these two have. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like they've got to be like the best of friends from this, and I don't know. It's crazy. They've got to do something together. I will definitely follow them long after the show. I hope so much for both of them.
Yeah, no, I do too. They're so good. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're going to roll into the final montage, which I think we also get to hear again. Mm-hmm. But it definitely brings some tears to your eyes. There's so many impactful moments from this whole series. And so this part specifically kind of felt like a love letter to send off the show. And usually they save that for the end, but they kind of did it in the beginning. So an end in the beginning. I felt like it went with the theme. I really loved it.
Which is why I said this could have been a finale.
It could have.
Because of 100%. Moments like this. I mean, I cried. Each time I watched it, this montage made me cry. It not only shows us the history of their love story, but also everything that we've gone through with them on this show. It's gripping. And it's wonderful. It's tying it in with the reveal of him being dead, which gives it kind of a double whammy feeling to it, because you're loving their history, but yet we know that he's now dead, and it was insane. And the music that was being played is just gut-wrenching. I don't know what the writers and directors and composers and everybody, where they all came from for the show. Like, I don't know why or how this show is leaps and bounds better than everything else in the CW universe. I don't get, where did these people come from? Why did they have them all along for some of the other shows? It's crazy.
I think because it was originally that partnership with HBO Max. So I think it was a mix of maybe like their money and some of like their creative team. It's definitely a different mix of people for sure. And like this whole show has always had just a very different vibe. It's much better put together. The cinematography alone is cinematic, to say the least. So it's always kind of been a bit of a different vibe and a different teams. The only thing I can think of is that original partnership with HBO Max.
most likely. Because, yes, Arrow and Flash and even Legends, they all had their moments, like their dramatic, tearful moments, but every one of those shows always had this hint of a cheese factor to it. Bit comic booky, bit goofy, bit like fake romance. This comes off as so real and so grounded. It's
very grounded.
Amazing the difference. Yeah. It's a
so
powerful
good.
love story.
It is a very powerful love story. All right. It is. Well, Superman and Lois and Clark. I do feel like they're one of the greatest love stories of all time, I must say.
Yeah.
Well, let's roll into Luther. Luther's back. So we're going to talk about all the Luther scenes to round this episode out. So we start with Luther and his assistant talking about what his plans are for the company now that he's actually out of prison. Imagine that. You can come back to real life and run your company. And he's like, no, I've kind of purchased this old hotel and I'd like to live here in Smallville for a while, simply so he can keep an eye on Lois. And oh, by the way, he's also looking for his daughter.
Yes. So one question I have here first before we get into it is about Elizabeth. Is that the first time we have ever had a Luther daughter named Elizabeth? Because the one on Smallville was not Elizabeth. It was, I can't remember her name, but I cannot think of any other Elizabeth Luther before.
It did not sound familiar to me, but I don't have as much of a history with the deep comics background.
Yeah. Killing me. I can't think of the daughter on Smallville. Why? I love the actress too, and I can't think of her name. Anyway, Jeff will kill me because we both agree how great she is. Anyway, but his assistant, like you were saying, she wants to spice things up in the hotel, clean it up, put up some window dressings, get some furniture, clean it all up, and he's like, "No, this is not a prison. That's all I need." And that was a perfect response. You're stuck in a 4x4 jail cubicle for however many years it's been, to suddenly have your freedom and be in a dusty old musty hotel, and that's your entire residence. That's like lavish living. Like, what do you need more? Like, I think that probably gave Luther some some humility, that he doesn't need the rich and extravagant now. He's just fine living in an old hotel room. No big deal. He's still a billionaire.
He's still a billionaire, but I also think the other part of it is that he's really focused on Lois and sort of ruining her. So that definitely plays a factor in all of this, I think.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, he actually ends up confronting her at the Gazette. Shocking. So he is stone cold, and you can tell that he's at least 5 steps ahead of Lois, although he's out for vengeance. And honestly, I feel this always ends badly for the person who's seeking vengeance. So for him, it's all about his daughter and kind of getting retribution for the fact that she was taken away from him because he had to go to prison, right? But it sounds to me like their relationship would have fallen apart anyway, given just who he is and what he does, regardless of if he had gone to prison. So I find that kind of interesting, and I'll like to see how that plays out over the season. But definitely it's his main motivation. He wants to get revenge on Lois for putting him in prison and taking him away from his daughter.
Yeah. It's kind of funny you said he's stone cold. If you kind of look at his look, he does look like stone cold.
He does a little bit.
Steve Austin, I'm talking from the World Wrestling. Yeah, he's got the same look, so.
He does.
Pretty funny. But oh my God, Harley, I'm gonna shadow what Jeff was saying in the beginning, and I'm gonna go way off tangent, adding to it. Okay. This is the best Luther we have ever gotten. He is by far my absolute favorite version of him ever. This is exactly how I've always imagined him. Super tough, biker gang-like exterior, but still a brilliant businessman and tech inventor inside, which makes him surprising to those that don't know him. You see a biker gang leader type of guy. Like, you expect him to ride in town on a Harley with 20 guys behind him on a Harley. He's the leader of the biker gang with his look. But yet underneath, he's brilliant, he's super smart, and he's savvy. That is how I've always pictured Luthor. Not the Gene Hackman version, not the Michael Rosenbaum version, especially not the Supergirl version. This is Luthor.
I did not
to me.
like that version.
Yeah. Luther's supposed to be scary. He's supposed to be intimidating and somebody that you don't want to mess with. And yet, all of these years, all of the actors that have played him, not one of them has ever pulled off the intimidation and scary factor. I love Michael Rosenbaum because he played the part so well, but he was never scary or intimidating at all. He was a great Lex in his own right, but he was never scary. This,
Gotcha.
to me, is the pinnacle of what Luthor should be. Downright scary upon seeing him, scary to be in his presence, or intimidated to be in his presence, and he's brilliant underneath all that. This is Luthor to me.
I agree. I absolutely love it. I know a lot of people love the Supergirl Luthor. I never liked it. Now, I didn't watch a lot of Supergirl, but what I saw of him, it did not. I was like, this is too campy for me. Like, I never liked any of it. So I think this is being brilliantly done. I absolutely love it. And you're right. He does have kind of like a Sons of Anarchy kind of vibe, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Like, just see him on a Harley, just like riding down the street. Like, I totally see it. But he goes, and in an interesting and bold, yet what is anybody actually going to do to stop this man move, he confronts the boys at the diner. He's, in my opinion, actually trying to like appeal to them, kind of maybe get them to not like be on his side, but like kind of feel for him about sharing about his daughter, and, you know, be like, this is all for her, and I haven't seen her, and I'm trying to find her. So I thought that was an interesting tactic.
Yeah. Can you imagine, though, being a teenager, just hanging out with your brother at the diner, and Lex Luthor walks in and just sits down beside you and then threatens you? I mean...
No.
As a teenager, you're scared out of your mind. That's what I mean. The intimidation on this guy. I mean, look at when the patron in the back of the restaurant stands up and says, "Hey, boys, are you okay?" Luthor just looks over his shoulder and glares at him. And the guy's like,
know.
Whoa. And he sits back down. And I'm thinking, whoa, yeah, like, holy crap. Like, a look sat that guy back down. That was it.
I know.
This guy's intimidating.
Wild. I know, but that's to your point. Like, that's how he should be. Like, people need to be terrified of him. And I think a lot of people, that's been a criticism of this particular Luthor, but I think it's great. I'm with you. I love it.
I haven't seen any criticism. I'm curious about that.
I feel like at the end of last season, there were some people that were very critical of his, like, kind of like darker portrayal.
Oh, no, I don't think so. I think one of the worst Luthors of all time is the one that was in the Justice League movie. What was his name? The skinny little goofy guy that was in the Facebook movie.
Jesse Eisenberg. He is the worst. That wasn't even the Lex Luthor. That crazy schizophrenic psycho. I don't even know. That was not Luthor. I've never seen a Luthor portrayed like that. Not scary. If I saw him, I'd walk up to him and smack him in the face. I'm like, who are you? Get out of here. He's dumb. I hated that Luthor so much. Yeah. He was a bit more manic as well. Kind of all over the place. Yeah, it was an interesting portrayal.
That's not Luthor. It never has been.
He's cold
Luthor.
and calculating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree.
This guy, Michael Kudlitz.
Yeah.
Oh.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I love him. I think he's great. Can I go on to the next?
Where are we? Oh yeah.
The diner.
The diner part. Yeah.
So I noticed this, and it stuck out to me not on the first watch, but on the second. I feel like in prior seasons, this diner would have been more packed with people, like extras. Yeah. But the diner was kind of pretty empty, and I do think that's kind of another byproduct of the final season, having less budget and less extras to sort of like fill out some of the space. And I don't think that's necessarily like what they were going for, but it almost had like a borderline like ghost town vibe. And I was like, it just kind of made me a little sad.
It did. Well, there was about 6 patrons in the diner there, but after I read your note, I paid a little more attention to it, and when I was watching it again, those same 6 patrons of the diner were the same extras in every scene that was in Smallville. They were the only people in that town. So yes, it was like a ghost town because there was nobody else there, and yet you always see the same 6 people walking around the streets. That is where I thought, oof. That's a little bit weak, guys. Like, seriously, you can't spend a few bucks. Like, paying an extra $100 a day to come stand in the background is nothing. I've been on these shows. You could have done that at least. It's not like you had to, well, we're going to bring back all the supporting cast, so bye-bye, extras, bye-bye, you're all fired.
It's almost kind of like what it felt like, you know?
Yeah.
But
it stood out when I started realizing they're the same ones in every scene. Like, or are they just following Lois around? What's she up to today? I don't know. Let's go see. Like,
I mean, it's a small town, but it's not that small.
Yeah. And when it wasn't them, you're right. All the buildings looked empty. The town looked like we were visiting the OK Corral in the Wild West. There was just nothing there.
I know. Kind of made me sad.
It's unfortunate.
Agreed.
But also when they were sitting at the table there and Luthor was about wrapping up, you could see Jordan was like starting to clench his fist. He was getting mad. But Luthor noticed. He looked down at the hand. He's like, huh. Looks at Jordan. Like, what are you going to do, kid? Like, okay, get mad, whatever. He just gets up and leaves. Like, it's, Luthor fears nothing. Like, nobody makes a scary villain like that. And I just love that he's fearless. That's part of what makes him so intimidating, because he's not bothered by anything.
No.
And we see more of that later in, was it this episode and the next one? The next episode we see more of this Jordan and Lex just not scared of him at all.
Yeah. No, but I also think this is one of the cues that ultimately leads Luthor to kind of maybe guess who Jordan is a little bit more.
Yeah. He's so smart. He puts pieces together.
Yeah. I don't know. I got a theory about that, but we'll talk about it.
Okay. My next point, though, is just Lois. She doesn't want the boys to go anywhere near Luthor because they come home. They say, Mom, Luthor was at the restaurant. He was giving everything away. He totally caved. Like, no, but they think they can do something on their own, and teenage boys being teenage boys, they think they're indestructible. You think nobody's like as a teenager, you're not scared of anything yourself, and these guys think, hey, whatever, and I've got superpowers, let's go take Luthor down. And Lois is like, no way, you have no idea about Luthor, you don't know what he's capable of, you stay away.
Exactly. Oh man. We'll talk. That will definitely come back in the next episode as well. It was a theme: teenage boys doing stupid things. But before we get into the second episode, we got to wrap up this one. So we had a very interesting name drop when Amanda, the assistant, hands Luthor some mysterious cube in the final scene, and so they sort of name drop in a way Brainiac. So are we going to see Brainiac in this final season? How cool would that be? Also, this cube is what ends up holding Superman's heart, and it's specifically something that Brainiac designed. So I'm guessing there has to be some sort of payoff to this throughout this season, despite what ends up happening in the next episode. That's my theory.
Okay. So first, she says Milton.
Okay.
That was the name she dropped. She said, Milton designed this here. He's giving this to you, whatever. And I was like, Milton, is that Brainiac's human name? And I looked it up, and definitely, yes, it is. His name is Dr. Milton Fine, a.k.a. Brainiac. So he designed that box, whatever it is. I mean, I don't know what it is, but is it... My question here is, did they name drop that just to give us the hope? Like, is it really Brainiac, or is it just a nickname that she's given? He's just some nerdy scientist out of the Luthor lab that designed this box. He's, the Brainiac, that smart kid. So I'm wondering if they're going to fool us with that. Because I'm with you. I think seeing Brainiac would be uber cool. it would be awesome to see. They did leak earlier before, in the summertime, that we are going to be surprised by one or two character appearances that we've never seen before in this final season, and a Brainiac could be one of them.
That would definitely be surprising. That is for darn sure. So,
and it would also suck because introducing a Brainiac would have been a villain for another season.
It would have. So it's kind of bittersweet. So we'll just have to see where this goes. But remember they did the same thing where they were name dropping Doomsday.
And they gave us
Bizarro. Paid off.
Yeah, it paid off.
They gave us Bizarro. We did the whole Bizarro thing, and then we still get Doomsday in the end. Like, how crazy. And it's the same guy, same character.
I know, eh?
Loved it. I don't know. Man. I still love that. I think it was brilliant. So
it was. But by the way, who the hell is this assistant? We haven't gotten her name, have we?
Amanda. It's Amanda.
Oh, she's Amanda. Okay.
Yeah.
So she offers Lex some quote-unquote company tonight because prison has been a very long time. And he looked at her, he's like, yeah, he was about to say yes, and then Doomsday showed up, but she's like, oh, I'll help you out, Luther. Like, she seems to want to be able to do anything for him, including making him feel like a man again after all those years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely seemed like she's into him in some form.
Yeah.
Don't know why, but you know what? Here we are. He's got the bad boy thing going for him, that's for sure.
And he's rich, so, I mean,
And super rich, and she's already kind of running his company, so.
Yeah. It's like a lock-in.
Win-win.
Yeah. I mean, he seems into her. He trusts her, so,
Yeah, true.
Is it also just nuts that Doomsday is still alive and we still have to deal with him somehow later on this show? Like, I don't remember how he gets stopped in the comics after he kills Superman, or who kills him, or who stops him. And it's going to be amazing to watch play out in this show all season long, because I'm just looking at this going, we lost Superman and Doomsday's still here, completely fine. Who's going to deal with him now? Like, there's nobody else to stop him.
I know. I mean, I do remember like bits and pieces and snippets of the comic arc and what ultimately like happens to Doomsday. So if you don't remember it, I just won't share, just because why not? But I mean, there's throughout the whole arc that it's the death of Superman, and then there's more to the arc. So we'll just have to see if they do the full arc, or
I don't know if they have time to do the whole reign of Superman where there's 4 of them that take his place. I don't think they have the time for that.
I don't think they can do the full reign of Superman, but we do have some of them. Well, we have Steel, we have Superboy, and we also technically have the Eradicator, if they can figure out how to bring him back from the Bizarro world.
Oh.
Because we have Morgan Edge / what was his name? Tal Rowe. Is that right?
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Wow, I forgot all about that. Good memory.
Yeah. And and then the only one that we never got anywhere within was Cyborg. Mm-hmm. Could that be a potential surprise?
Could be.
It's a giant, massive character.
Could you imagine if they did 4? They actually squeezed in the Reign of Superman. I mean, we know that
it would have to only be an
out.
Episode. Yeah, it would have to only be like one episode. Yeah. But to do the whole arc, you have to do the death of Superman, the reign of Superman, and then the return.
Yeah.
So how do they do that? I don't know.
10 episodes. And what does that mean? Does it mean we're not even going to get Tyler Hoechlin for hardly any of this final season?
We get into that in the second episode.
Yeah.
I've got some. You have some notes, and I kind of started responding to some of it. Yeah, okay. So we'll get back to it.
All right. Well, let's pause for our first ad break of this double episode, and we'll be right back with favorite scenes.
Shape out and eagle.
All right, let's kick it off. We're doubling everything up tonight. Double episode discussion, and we're gonna have double the amount of favorite scenes.
Yep.
Let's kick it off with you first for this first episode.
All right, I chose Lois v. Luthor, and I actually chose this one kind of for the setup. So we'll listen, and then I'll explain.
Okay.
Chrissy, have you seen the case file on...
Not Chrissy.
What have you done with my father?
I walked to your house and made you an offer.
You threatened me.
There was no threat if you were tired. But I was clear. You don't get to have your words in print anymore, not after what you did.
You left this at my house after you called that thing.
Did I? Prove it.
This isn't a game.
If you didn't want this, you should have taken my offer.
Where's my dad?
He won't be protecting you anymore. Neither will Superman.
I don't need protection.
You have been hiding behind Superman and the General your entire career. Those days are over.
You want me to retire? Fine. Okay, I retire.
You're not even a good liar.
If you have hurt him, I swear to God, I will put you away for the rest of your miserable life.
You like it here in this small town? The aw shucks and the apple pie. Makes you feel safe. Seems fake to me. Maybe being here will change my mind.
So what, you're staying in Smallville?
Right there. Across the street. Oh, it's got the perfect view.
I'm not scared of you.
You will be. Being alone like I was in prison. Nearly losing the business I built. Having my daughter turn on me. It tested me in ways you can't possibly imagine. At least not yet. Nice headline.
Ooh. So
it's the music. Like every time Luthor's on screen, they have this intimidating music that makes you feel I need to worry about this guy.
100%. Yeah. It's being done really well. And so I love that I feel like it just sets the tone between them, because Luthor is as much Lois's villain as Superman's, and kind of the way that she stands up to him as just a regular person to like a complete psychopath is totally badass. Like, I love Bitsy as Lois. She's so good. Oh, yeah. And I love that like strength for her. It's awesome.
I mean, she didn't back down. She out of everybody that should be scared of him, she's just not. And yeah. But I mean, he comes right back at her. Well, you should be. Like, that's scary. That scares me, and I'm not even her. Like, it's
exactly.
Oh, yeah, that's good stuff. There's so much good stuff with Luthor and Lois in these episodes. Gosh. All right, we're gonna play X-Force's clip, which he called "Worrying is Part of Being in Love."
Miss Lane, listen to my voice.
What's happening?
I'm right here. Everything's gonna be okay. You just had a small seizure.
Okay, well, is that normal?
I need to get Dr. Patel. She'll explain everything.
Take me to the fortress.
I'm worried it may be eclampsia.
Something is wrong.
Dr. Patel will handle it.
We can't take that chance.
We talked about this. No Kryptonian tech.
Ken, things have changed. You just had a seizure.
I'm fine.
Lois, I can't lose you.
Snap out of it, Clark. I understand that this is hard, but I am the one who is giving birth. You don't get to freak out just because you're worried. We both worry about each other.
I can't.
Die? This doesn't keep me from worrying about you. How many times have I had to explain to you that worrying is just a part of being in love?
Okay, you're right.
Yes, I know I am right. Now, could you please go get Dr. Patel so she can deliver these babies? Oh, I am so over having twins. They're like two little gremlins knocking against each other. No.
I'm staying right here.
Okay.
Here they go.
Okay. Give her an Oscar right there and then. That's just... It's
very believable.
It's tense and it's funny all at the same time. Like, how do you perform tense, in pain, and humor in one shot? I don't get it. Like, that's just crazy.
I don't know. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Pregnancy hormones are wild. Yeah. It was good.
And I even like when he leaves and she grabs. He's like, "Ow, okay." It's like, wait a second, is she actually hurting him? Like, it's kind of funny.
Mom's strength is a real thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. I saved mine for the end because my clips, I strung together the other two flashback scenes. One's early in the show and one's near the end of the show. It's the montage and everything at the end where it really shines in showing us the history of this love story and why everything we're witnessing hits so hard. So here's those scenes strung together.
You okay? Maybe a glass of wine? Something stronger.
I just have so many questions.
I know. And my mom thought you could probably use some space, so she went into town to give us some privacy. So I'll answer any questions you have.
Why tell me now?
Because I'm in love with you. More in love than I ever thought I could be.
So when you heard me tell Janet that I was in love during the Superman interview...
That was the best day of my life.
Even if I called you dorky.
Sometimes I'm a little dorky. You're mad. Definitely not mad. You wanna...
Go to your bedroom, right now.
Okay.
You said she wanted to give us space, right?
Yeah, no, she won't be back. It's just, I've never,
Done it in your childhood bedroom, it'll be fine. I'll turn the Cal Ripken around so he's not watching.
That's not what I meant. I've never...
Oh. I love you. There's no one else for me.
I love you too.
Good. And get ready to have a new best day of your life.
No one has seen or heard from Superman since the attack took place. People have been gathering here ever since, looking for any sign of the Man of Steel. There are unconfirmed reports that the assailants were using kryptonite weaponry. Police are continuing to investigate the crime scene.
I can confirm those reports.
What happened?
Luther.
He was there?
More inner gang, maybe some Yakuza, but the weapons were definitely Luther.
You're cut.
Huh. How do these guys keep getting kryptonite?
Let me get you a Band-Aid.
No, it's okay. It'll just, yeah.
You really had me worried there. We just got married. I'm not ready to be a widow.
That is never gonna happen.
Says the guy who was just attacked by 2 gangs with kryptonite.
Yeah, my cut healed. Plus I can fly. I have heat vision.
Laser
And
eyes.
super strength. Not that I'm bragging.
You're totally bragging.
Hey, just don't want you to worry.
Kind of goes with being in love. You worry.
I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me. Forever.
Promise. I'm in love with someone else. Clark from the paper. No. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not before me. No.
Mom? Dad?
No.
Mom?
No, boy.
Mom, is he okay? Mom, is he okay?
Oh, man, that got me all welled up in motion again.
Yep, that's a tough one.
Oh, my God, because, the music, that orchestral score is just tugging at the heart.
Their score is beautiful.
And
it's
you
very
can
well
picture
done.
and feel everything just listening to it, and then to transition from that into the actual death scene. Yeah.
I know. It's hard.
Oh, my God.
Heart-wrenching. That's what my rating was.
Heart-wrenching. Well,
Literally.
we're going to go from that into episode 2, which was called A World Without, and we're going to kick it right off with our general impressions and ratings of this episode.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
After we wipe our tears away, of course.
I know, right?
All right, what do you got for this one?
All right, I gave this one 9 formidable foes. I think episode 2 showcased how ruthless and calculating Luther is. He's a formidable foe for anyone, and I like that they've chosen to make him as much Lois's villain as Superman's. I think it was important to carry on Jordan's arc as kind of our proto-Superman throughout this episode, illustrating that emotion can blind us. So I liked the dichotomy of Jordan's doubt last episode versus like his hubris in this episode and the way his emotion kind of drives him. So I feel like it also could have very easily felt almost like a 180 for the character to go from one to the other within an episode, like basically within one episode of each other. But I feel like it was done so well. The writers knew exactly what they were doing. And I know you're not a big fan of Alex, but I actually like him. I think he did a really good job. That's a lot to carry on your shoulders as a young adult, both as the character of Jordan as well as the actor of Alex. So I think that's his name, right? Alex. Yeah, it's Alex Garfin, right?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the pace. I felt that it made you like feel the urgency of the situation. I know you didn't like this one quite as much, so that's why I was like, oh, this will be an interesting discussion. I'd like to see how you feel about my points about it. So,
well, I don't want this to sound like, because it's not like I didn't like the episode. So let me explain with my rating if it makes kind of sense, because this is just a genuine concern. It's not a disdain for the episode. It's not a hate on or anything. I'm just a little bit worried. So I'm giving this one an 8, maybe a bit too much to ask in 10 episodes. So I've been so looking forward to this show coming back. And after the disappointing news of it being canceled and then reduced to only 10 episodes, I got really concerned about what they can do to wrap it up properly. Sure, we can be thankful that they at least know when it is ending and they can tie up all the story points and write off our characters into the sunset, which we hope they do. But what really stood out to me with this massively anticipated return, and especially this episode, the first one was near perfect. In this episode, I especially noticed how fast the pacing was during the second episode. They're ripping through the story and jumping from scene to scene without much connection between the scenes. Yes, it was good. Yes, it was huge. It was impactful. It was serious. It was full of emotion. But it's going too fast. And I'm really concerned now that the whole season is going to be like this, just so they can squeeze everything in to 10 episodes. I'm really worried about that.
Okay.
Because we're used to getting a double length up season, 15 to 20 episodes out of the show. And for them to be cut in half virtually, I feel like they now have all those ideas that they had. They've got to condense it into 10 episodes. And I feel like they're going to be jumping through stuff really, really quickly. And I'm a little bit worried that it might be too much. So I'm hoping that they find a way to still write us solid, fluid storytelling without being so jerky, jumpy, and what the hell's going on, because so much is happening in a brief amount of time. So we'll see. And like you said about Jordan, I liked him in the first episode. I agreed with you, but this episode he was back to being his annoying self that I complained about over the last couple seasons, where he doesn't listen to anyone at all. Drives me crazy.
He does not. And it also drove me crazy too. I'm not downgrading that. I just had a little bit of a different take on it, I think. I don't know. Well, we'll get into it.
I really like what you said, but like I said, do you understand my concern about the pace? Not of just the episode. I just feel like, they're going to be ripping through this real quick to get everything in this season, and I don't want them to go that fast.
I know. See, and I'll bring this up more, but I feel like that was intentional for this episode to create that urgency.
Okay. Well,
but I'm also not an editor.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, let's dive into this second episode. You know, I love the music they play during the logo. That's where I got all of these from. I've got 5 different ones because they quite often change depending on what is coming in the episode. They play a specific type of music to match the emotion of the episode.
Yes.
During the logo.
Yes.
And even though the one I just played isn't what they played, the one that they played on the actual show was kind of like a heavy metal version, knowing that this was like going to be a Lex episode coming. So
I know. I was like, that's right.
Yeah. All right. So my turn to take over the show a little bit. I led the notes for this one as it got really late last night while we were doing this. So, perspectives. We dial it back a few moments and see the arrival of Doomsday with dead Superman from the onlooker's point of view. At this point, it doesn't matter about identity hiding anymore. Lois isn't going to hide anything. She is on the ground with her boys and she's screaming and crying. It doesn't matter who's around. Her husband, the father of her children, is laying dead at her feet. So, secret identities out the window. Doesn't matter right now. But she still managed to look up to Lana, who we didn't see in the first episode, but Lana and Sarah were both there on the street. And she gives just with a look, she asks Lana to help keep people away, which I thought was pretty cool of Lana to be like, hey, okay, I'm the mayor. Everybody, give them some space, which I thought was pretty cool. And then right after that, she explains to Jordan, take your dad to the fortress, see if there's anything that your grandma can do. And Jordan takes off with the body to the fortress, but people witnessed that. So it's like, was Lois thinking in that moment, or does she really not care? People saw him take off, so now they obviously know, hey, that kid's got powers.
Yeah, I think she was honestly probably a bit blinded by grief, and I think some of these actions will kind of settle on her, like as she moves throughout the episode of this secret that everybody's been carrying. Because I kind of had the same thought, like it's not as if these people are really moving with any urgency. I felt like for sure someone would have to notice that Jordan took off, or at least notice that Superman's body was missing. That I feel like would have stood out. Like, I mean, he very clearly was not okay. And the way he was facing people that were walking towards him would have seen that he was missing part of his body. So I feel like that wasn't really being hidden. Like, I think it was pretty clear what had happened. And while I can't really imagine that level of grief, I am certain that it probably would be pretty impossible to actually hide your feelings in a moment like that. And that's what ends up being called out a bit later this episode. So,
yep. Oh, exactly. So later on, Lana and Sarah show up at the Kent house to offer support. And we're already crying from this initial scene, and the tears keep on rolling because they show up at the door and the music starts playing again, and they end up hugging each other, and it's very depressing. These first two episodes they're intense, but they're very depressing. They're very sad.
Yes.
It's tragic. Even though we knew it was coming, and we know that he's going to come back again, it doesn't matter. We're living the experience of Superman dying, which we've never really... yes, you can say, it happened in Justice League, but you know what? The Justice League was crap. I'm sorry. That movie was crap. You didn't feel anything. You didn't cry when Superman died. You didn't care. It's just this movie, or this TV show, brings the emotion because we've been connected to these characters for 4 seasons. A 2-hour movie does not give you time to connect to the character. I'm sorry.
No, and they did not do the death of Superman well, in my opinion.
No.
Yeah, they
Batman
did it,
Superman.
but they didn't do it. Yeah, no, they didn't. They did not do it well.
They just introduced Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill and whatever, like, in their first movie together, and then they kill him. You expect us to care? We're like, we haven't even had time to get to know this guy yet.
Yeah,
I don't feel anything for him. Like, it's just sorry. Anyway, off of the movie. So, what I liked about this scene is it's nice to see the families coming together. You know, the Kents and the Cushings, is it, I guess? Is she still going by, or is she going back to Lana Lang?
She's always kind of gone by Lana Lang.
Yeah.
Kyle kept the name Cushing, while Sarah goes by Cortez. I can't figure them out. So, yes.
Hey, that's my
family.
household has 3 last names here, too, so.
I mean, I get that, but at the same... I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it's weird.
It's just very confusing
to me
for people who were married and have biological children together. Like, they all have different last names, which anyways, you would expect in different situations, not this particular situation.
But I like this though. I like because there's a lot of time in the last couple seasons that we never really saw Lana be part of what was going on with the Kent family. Like, Clark's your best friend for your entire life, and she never seemed to be involved in his life. So I like that they started to bring that in last season, and then they're continuing it here. You know, because Lana, she wants to do something as the mayor to stop Luthor take over the town or do whatever she can do to stop him. She wants to help any way she can, but Lois actually warns her to stay out of it. If you help me fight Luthor, then he's going to come after your family next.
Yes. And that's kind of what I loved about this. Like, I love their relationship. And, like, yes, she's always been, like, Clark's best friend, but I like that kind of, like, by proxy, she's now become Lois's best friend. Like, I really love their relationship. And so I love that she's sort of trying to support and protect Lois kind of any way that she can. Yeah. I am curious about how Luthor is going to react to all of this, because he seems very focused on Lois and revenge for putting him in prison and revenge for taking his daughter away from her, even though that's not what she did. Like, I mean, yes, she put him in prison. Anyways, that's a whole different debate that we're not going to get into at this particular moment. But that aside, I also wouldn't be surprised to sort of see him try to take his aggression, if you will, out on anyone trying to stop him and kind of get in the way of that revenge mission, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. Like, will he take notice of what Lana's trying to do, and when he realizes she's helping him out, when he realizes that's Superman's best friend, ooh, I got another target.
Exactly. It's like, is this like something he delegates out to like Otis and Gretchen, who are hiding off in the wings somewhere?
Yeah.
Is this something, you know, that he just lets fly under the radar, or does he now go after Lana with the same vengeance?
Yeah.
I think that's interesting.
Exactly. So while Lana and Lois are having a chat, we get Sarah with a new haircut, trying to comfort John, but he is quickly losing hope.
Look, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't actually recognize Sarah at first.
She has bangs now.
No, it did actually change her look, especially in that initial shot when I was a bit out of practice of knowing who everybody was. I was like, who is that? Oh, duh, Sarah.
Yeah. They look good on her, though. Like, they picked up the characters pretty well, because they've been gone for a long time. But
I know. Yeah, it's been a while.
But Jordan, he returns from the fortress with an update from Grandma Superman. I forget what her name is.
Lara.
Lara, right, Lara.
Lara, yeah.
From Grandma Lara to update them on the dire situation from the fortress, but it isn't good. Superman cannot heal from this because he can't regrow organs. He can't be brought to the sun to recharge. Nothing can happen. He needs the heart back in order to possibly be healed. This doesn't look very good. And then during that expression, and while Lois and everybody's reacting to it, you see Jordan and John kind of make eye contact, like they're silently agreeing that they have to do something.
Yes, because they're twins, and I guess that means they're partners in crime. But honestly, of course, teenagers aren't going to listen. They're going to take matters into their own hands. They literally can't help it. They're still children, but no one at that age feels like a child. You feel like you own the world. And like you said earlier, you feel invincible. So it just kind of causes this perfect storm of really stupid decisions, in my opinion.
Totally.
All right. So that being said, and the diagnosis from Grandma Lara there, do you really think that Clark is dead? Are we really only going to see Tyler as a hologram or in a flashback? I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve the break. I mean, the man has been working hard for the last 3 seasons, but I feel like that's really, really tough to do for this last season. So
it is, especially with only 10 episodes.
Yeah.
But he is dead. I mean, Superman does truly die. I think he's more dead here than he ever was before, because in other iterations, he was just basically the life squeezed out of him. In this instant, he's had his heart ripped out of his chest.
Yes.
Nobody can live without that. We've never seen it be this violent and this definitive before. Because in other iterations, I kind of felt like he just depleted himself so much that he had nothing left, and he went into like a coma, like stasis, until somebody recharged him enough and he can come back. Here, he's actually dead. There's a gaping hole in his chest, and his heart is gone. That's dead to me.
I mean, he looks dead.
Yeah. And for like you said, why would you do that with only 10 episodes left with Tyler? Okay, you've got to give him something to do. Okay, well, we heard his voice be... Luther was using his voice...
Right.
Or the phone call. I'm like, okay, that's how you get Tyler in one way. Next way, you put him in the hologram. Okay.
Right.
He's a hologram. I mean, even the hologram, he says, hey guys, I can only help you here. But out there in the world, it's just you 3.
Exactly.
So he's at this moment, he's a goner. He's gone. That's it. And it's really, really freaky to try to imagine a world without Superman and this family without Superman.
I know. A world without.
A world without. But if the pacing continues, like I think it's going to be, he'll be back next episode. We'll see. I don't know.
We'll see.
Now, I predict we're going to get 2 episodes of Lois, Jordan, and Jonathan dealing with Luther and all of that on their own. And then by episode 5, he comes back halfway. They figure something happens, they figure it out, and he comes back halfway, I think.
Yeah. We'll have to see.
Yeah. All right, on to my next group of points. This one is called Risks Taken. Now, the boys come up with ideas to get Superman's heart back when they realize Luther probably has it. And they think it's easier to get it from Luthor. It's easier to face him than it will be to fight Doomsday. Let's go get it. How little do they know.
I agree. They're definitely being very naive, young, inexperienced, aka teenagers.
Yep.
But I agree with John. Like, this is absolutely a trap. Like, why? Why are you going straight into his hands now that you know he knows exactly who you are, and then magically you start hearing Superman's heart beating? Come on, dude. I actually thought that we'll get into this in a little bit here, but I actually didn't mind John actually checking out the hotel. I thought that was kind of smart, although risky. It's all risky, like you said, risks taken here. So,
okay, I think we got the stuff coming up, so we'll.
It is. So I didn't want to.
Yeah,
I didn't want to say any more about it.
Well, Lois heads back to work as she can't stand being idle and doing nothing. And she also decides if anybody, the world is going to find out about Superman being gone, I should be the one to write his final story. And she heads to the office to do it. And then in the next scene, when we see over her shoulder, you can actually see the title of the article she's writing, The Death of Superman.
Oh, of course. It's heartbreaking, but you can't do this properly without that Lois Lane article. Just saying.
No, you can't. So. Yeah, tough stuff. But can you understand her need to do something? And this is what I meant. This is one of the points where I started feeling like the pacing is too fast. It feels like they've only been grieving for the evening. Like, it seems like Superman died last night and she's going to work the next day. But I don't think so. I think more time is passing. I think this could be days later. It was really hard to tell because you just lost your husband, the father of your kids, you lost Superman. I'm going to go to work the next morning. I can't do nothing. That doesn't seem right to me. That seems way too soon. You need to grieve for more than an evening.
I agree with you there. I also think it would have been more believable if they changed her line to say, we have to keep his secret because Superman died. Clark Kent didn't die.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? That would have been more believable to me. That, like, I can also understand not wanting to, like, be in the one place that literally only reminds you of your dead husband. But to be, like, stuck there. So I understand wanting to go somewhere else and to do something, like, as a distraction. But I feel like a better line there would have been, nobody knows, who Superman really is. Like, we need to keep up appearances, keep his secret, yada, 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 keep you all safe. That sort of thing.
Yeah. So then we jump to Jordan doing one of his stupid Jordan things, trying to scare Luthor at the local pub to get the heart back. Give me his heart back! But Luthor turns it on him and intimidates him off, which I thought was such a great move. It was a ballsy move by Luthor, but it just shows how perceptive he is. Knowing Jordan is just a kid who's out of his depths, all Luthor had to do was get angry, get mean. Didn't matter that Jordan had powers. Jordan's just a kid, and he's not quite ready for this yet. And Luthor intimidated him out of that place.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he definitely called his bluff. I mean, I think Luthor is nothing if he's not one hell of a poker player. I mean, he can read people amazingly well. He knew 100% Jordan didn't have it in him to actually carry out any sort of threat, let alone to kill him. And he called him on it, and he was right. And he totally backed off as a result. So, again, like, bad plan, totally naive, rushing into things, emotions first, no thought. Anyway, typical teenager.
And his costume is ridiculous. Wait, can they just update it for him? Because he looks so dumb, goofy. Like, seriously, get something cooler.
I know. I'm not a fan of this costume either. And honestly, at this point, I don't think it even really hides his identity all that well.
No, you saw from Luthor's perspective, he could see right through the mask.
Yeah.
He didn't hide anything. You could see his face and his lips and his puffy cheeks and wide jawbone. It hides nothing.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. So, anyway.
But Superman gets away with wearing glasses, so I guess at least this costume's a little bit more than that. But
I suppose that's fair. I mean, people see what they want to see, right?
Yeah, but still, it's just the silliest looking thing. Really,
it is.
You gonna go snorkeling in the pool? Like, what are you dressed up as?
He looks like a bug.
Oh, totally, bug boy. So while that is happening, Lois and John head to the hotel later to face down Luthor on their own terms. And this is where we see Luthor put the pieces together and figure out that Clark is Superman and Jordan is the Black Goon, which is my name for him. It's always scary when the bad guy figures it all out. Now there's nowhere to hide for them, and just guessing at what he might do next is a nightmare that you can't wake up from. But I love that we got to witness Luthor putting it together, because we often don't get to see that moment either, how he figures it out. And that was cool.
That's true. It was nice to see, like, because we don't get to see that very often. But it's almost like, and this is where I go back to, like, reading people or being observant is, like, definitely one of Luthor's superpowers, because, like, he thought he knew and he had put, I think, enough of the pieces together, but I fully believe that if John hadn't blurted it out, like, he wouldn't have had that confirmation maybe quite so quickly. I think he ultimately, like, I mean, he was right, but I don't think he, like, knew that he was right, but then, like, John confirmed it, like, right there, you know, again, dumb teenager.
Yeah.
And I honestly felt like a lot of things that happened this week are just a giant masterclass in what not to do if you're a vigilante or a superhero.
So true.
It's just how it felt to me.
But in the scene, like, Lois, she's not jolted by it at all. Like, John is in complete fear of the threat of Luthor, because Luthor just laid it down. Like, you get out of here. The next time you step on my property, that's the last time you will. You're not leaving. And John is clearly scared, but Lois is not jolted at all. And so John grabs her and is like, Mom, let's get out of here.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, Lois standing up to Luthor without backing down. Like, I really respect that. But on the one hand, I mean, she's obviously very clearly afraid of him, and he's psychotic. He's terrorizing her throughout this entire episode, although really it all kind of started, you know, back in the finale when he first shows up in town. I mean, he's inducing fear legitimately, yet when she has to go toe to toe with him, she does not back down.
Yeah.
And I do love that.
Me too. Very, very cool. In town, Lana is digging up Luthor's secret holdings and all his real estate purchases and what he's trying to buy and the offers he's making. She's trying to find out what he's up to, and she has her assistant running around doing a lot of the research.
Yeah, it's like the war of the assistants, you know, Luthor's assistant versus Lana's assistant. But this is, again, like, I'm very curious about where this plot point will go. I do wonder how much she can do before someone starts to come after her, or maybe it'll be like there'll be the B plot with, like, the assistant trying to take care of the meddling mayor, if you will, while Luthor focuses on Lois.
That could be true. It could be Otis
or Otis and Gretchen. Yeah,
could be the two of them going after Lana.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you've stated before, like, Superman has his villains, Lois gets her villains. Maybe the other people need to have their own versions of villains too. And if Lana's just a regular, you know, citizen, she needs to have a regular citizen foe.
Yeah, kind of. True.
Definitely. So Lois, is she livid when she finds out what Jordan did and lays into him about it. And I was just thinking, yep, Jordan, you're an idiot. And I mean, she's pissed off. You know, you went and faced down Luthor by yourself. You have no idea what he's capable of. He could have kryptonite. He could have had something prepared just in case, and you would have been gone too. Like, you just don't get what's going on. And what I love about this family and this relationship too, I always get a kick out of it, because these boys are what? They're 16 now, 17 now?
Yeah,
however,
exactly.
Maybe even 18. I love that it doesn't matter what their age is. She can still send them to their rooms. Like, they're grounded, and they're like, yes, ma'am. It's like, they just listen. I'm like, is that just a good old country family or something? Like, go to your room and stay there. Do not come out until I tell you it's okay. Like, what teenager in my life that I would listen to that? I'd be like, whatever. They wouldn't listen to that. It's so funny.
I know. I think that's pretty interesting. But I'm also guessing, like, based on their ages, this would probably be the last year for that. I mean, it's kind of, I feel like it's tough enough that once kids turn 16 and can drive, they kind of get the sense of freedom and the sense of autonomy of, like, being an adult without actually being an adult. But, like, imagine if you're the kid with superpowers and you could have flown anywhere you wanted to go at that age. So, I mean, like, I feel like it makes it like 10 times worse. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll go to my room, but I'm going to fly out the window. See ya.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he does anyway. Like, I guess we do see.
That's what I'm saying.
We do see them starting to break the rules. So.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because John was like, you can't do it, Mom. Mom doesn't want you. I don't care. And he's off. He's going. So. Yeah, so there is the start of that. I just get a kick out of it that she still can be that strict with him. It's funny.
It is pretty funny.
All right. Moving into the next topics. I've called this one The Moments of Whoops. So Luther shows up at the diner and Sarah is not very nice to him. Sarah, you may not know much, but seriously, you've heard this guy's reputation. Why are you being such a jackass to him when he just entered your diner and did nothing but sit down?
I mean, but at the same time, can you blame her? Like,
she's standing up for her friends. I know,
but it's also not as if people don't know who he is. So even if she didn't know the whole truth, which she 100% does, I'm sure the fact that he's an ex-con and all around not so nice of a guy kind of would have earned him that treatment anyway. Been like, okay, you're a crook, you're a criminal, you're like a terrible person. You're going to come in here like, yeah, I'm going to give you a little bit of attitude. Again, teenage.
Yeah.
Teenage, I guess, hubris or teenage behavior. So
not thinking about the consequences because he's going to be like, who is this little brat? Like, I'm going to come after your family next. Like, how dare you?
Exactly. I mean, exactly.
All right, next moment of whoops. So Chuck actually witnessed Jordan fly away with Superman. He also knows what the family's going through, though, because we hear Lana talking to him and explain to us, the viewers, that Chuck lost his family in a similar fashion, and he understands the grief that you're going through. So because he appreciates all that Superman has done, he's going to keep it a secret. And, he goes to, this is what he tells Lana, because he goes to see Lana at her office and says, don't worry, I'm not going to say anything. But I think he needed to get it off his chest, like, Mayor, I witnessed this, because he knows she was there, so.
Yeah, like he needed somebody to tell. Yeah, I think it's wise. At least he chose to tell Lana, who already kind of knew the truth anyway. So yeah, it does kind of keep the secret.
Yeah, and Lana turns around and tells Lois, and Lois is like, "Oh my god, like it's getting worse."
Yeah, well, I mean, it's getting out. Like, are they going to come to a point where they're completely out in the open? Like everybody knows who they are.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you mentioned this earlier. We see that Jordan hears Superman's heart beating. And at this point in the episode, my question is, how is that possible? The heart is dead when it's not in a body. I was so confused because I've only seen this in horror movies. It's a horror movie trick where a heart continues to beat in a box, being all creepy and stuff like that. So I was not understanding this. What do you mean he hears the heart beating? I didn't get it at this point in the episode.
Oh no, I was totally there with John, 100% a trap.
Yeah,
but
that too.
Yeah, but as far as like the episode goes, I definitely felt like they were almost going for this like telltale heart vibe. You know that Edgar Allan Poe short story? Do you remember that one? No. There's it's a short story and it features a man who's a little crazy, and you come to find out that like he continues to hear this like bump 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 sound, and he's trying to figure out where it's coming from, and it turns out it's it's his manifestation of guilt of having murdered someone and buried them, and the heart is haunting him. It's called the telltale heart. So I almost felt like they were sort of going for that, kind of like he's being haunted by the death of his dad, and Luther knows that, so he was just playing like right into his gullibility, his hope though that he wanted his dad to be able to come back to life, to be okay. And so Luther, of course, sets this trap knowing full well it would draw Jordan in, because he that's what he wanted. That's what he wanted to believe, that he was hearing his dad's heart, even though, as you've pointed out, that's quite impossible.
Right. Okay. Cool. Telltale heart. I like it. But Jordan wants to go get it. Like, John, being the much smarter one here, like you have already said, knows it's a setup. It's a trap! As we have all heard from a very famous Star Wars movie, and also Firefly.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. But stupid Jordan doesn't care. Sigh.
I know.
Back to the annoying dummy. I'm going to go get the heart. Doesn't matter what anybody says. I'm a Superboy now, and I can go do this.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely the hubris kicking in 100%. He thinks he can't be touched because he has superpowers, but he's very unprepared for what happens because he's blinded by his emotions. And in a lot of ways, he's blinded by hope. He's not thinking through the fact that it's impossible for his dad's heart to be beating right now.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. And we'll come back to that in a second. John is at the moment breaking into the new Luther Hotel of Smallville, looking for the heart. And at this moment, I was like, wait a second, didn't Jordan just fly 100 miles away to go get the heart and you told him not to? Why would you think it's laying around in an old hotel, in a desk drawer or a dresser drawer? I mean, Jonathan was smart for a moment, but I didn't find this very smart here at all. Jordan just said, I can hear it, and I'm going to go get it, and he flew away. And yet you think, oh, it must be in the hotel room across the street. I'll go look there. I was confused by this. I don't know if it's the writing or if it was the kids. It just didn't make any sense to me. Plus, when he's about to get caught, he doesn't turn off his phone flashlight. He's hiding behind the bed, and he's still got the flashlight on. I'm like, dude, you're not the dumb one. Quit acting so dumb.
I noticed that too, and it kind of made me chuckle. Not that he was very hidden in his spot. So, some not smart decisions. Although I didn't think it was necessarily a totally bad play for him to go to this room, because he knows Jordan's, in my mind, like he's like, okay, I know Jordan's heading into a trap. Obviously, the heart isn't there, but he's just hoping Jordan can get back away. And so I actually think, it wasn't a terrible idea. He's like, what's the best place to hide something? Possibly in plain sight? I don't know. I thought it was worth a check. Minus the obvious fact that if Luther actually had caught him, he would be dead. But yeah. I mean, we know that Luther is, of course, preoccupied with Jordan, and so Jonathan's able to get away.
See, because at this point in time, we have no idea that it's an action figure making the beating call. Like, I'm thinking, yes, it's a trap, but yes, it still could really be his heart. Like, maybe Luther, with all of his science and everything that he does, he's hooked the heart up and fired some electricity through it, and it's beating. And that's the beating heart that Jordan can hear, because the heart's in the box and it's working somehow. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm thinking, John, you dummy, he's going to get the heart. It's a trap, but he's going to get it. So why do you think it's here? That was my train of thought.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. So. I think that's also not a bad train of thought, especially at this point in the episode before we have the reveal. Yeah. I was just so focused on it being a trap, and I was like the heart's like out of the body. Like, how is it going to keep beating? But anyway,
yeah, exactly.
I was with you there.
All right, so back to Jordan now. He clearly runs right into the trap at an old factory yard or oil refinery, whatever that was, only to find that it's a Superman action figure with the fake beating heart. Trap, trap, trap.
Yup. So now my question is, why did Luthor take the heart in the first place? Was it a trophy? Was it that he knew that was the only way to stop Superman, to kill Superman? Or is there more to it than that? Because I am dying to know about that cube box device that he had it in. Because ultimately, we see he takes out, he throws it down, and destroys it. So did he get what he wanted from it? I think I do think there's a bit more to this.
There's something missing there, because you're right. Why was that box created?
Exactly. It's all about the box.
I feel like that thing was designed to keep the heart healthy for some reason. I don't know why. And I'm also questioning if that was the actual heart that he stomped into the ground. I don't think it was.
Oh, that's a good point. It was like a red herring to mess with Jordan.
To mess with Jordan. Yeah. So.
Ooh, I like that. I had not considered that. I like that.
So yeah, the real heart's still somewhere in that box.
Beating away.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he's thinking heart transplant into something or somebody.
Yeah. I don't know. Like that part is very unclear to me, but I think there's more to this story. I don't think we've seen the end of that.
For sure. There's got to be something there.
Yeah.
All right, on to the next section, which is thriller vibes. So this is where the episode actually starts getting kind of creepy. Like, there was actual like scream moments, like when this phone call comes in that Lois receives, and it's in Clark's voice, and he says, "Yeah, I am dead."
Yeah,
that's creepy.
From his phone number.
Yeah, like crazy creepy. That, like I said, right out of the Scream movies. It's insane. And then it changes to a very Saw-like game, like the movie series Saw.
Oh, yeah.
You must make a choice. Both kids are in danger. You can only save one. Who's it going to be? Make a choice, Lois, and you have 5 minutes. I mean, that's right out of Saw.
It is. It is. I'm not going to sleep tonight.
So it's just like, holy crap, this is crazy.
I mean, yeah, it was incredibly creepy. It's spooky season right now, so it really fit in with, like, I love the horror vibes. Like, I love the Saw vibe to it, which, as much as I don't want to go and like rewatch that movie, it's just like what they did, especially with that first movie, was just so wild when you're watching it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, to give her that impossible Sophie's choice, which twin do you save? Do you save the human one who has no powers to defend himself? Or do you pick the one who's probably actually in real danger, although she has no idea about which one could possibly be in more danger?
Yeah.
So, it's fascinating.
It was great. It really was. Do you have a definitive answer who she clicked on? Because the camera swung behind her phone, so we couldn't see who she chose.
I thought Luthor was going to reveal it at some point in this episode, but he never did.
No.
So if she didn't click the hang up button, which it didn't seem like they did, because it didn't say like thank you for participating or something like that.
And it looked like she pointed to the top of her phone, which is where the 1 or 2 is.
Would have been.
Yeah.
So I feel like you're right. She made a choice.
We don't know what choice. Jonathan to save, because Jordan, being superpowered, has a chance to survive a lot longer than Jonathan would. And the fact that the moment she made the choice, 10 seconds later, Jonathan comes through the front door. So he probably had a target on his back, like from a sniper or something, until she made her decision, and then he was like let to go free.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Because, like, I mean, he didn't get caught actually in that hotel room. It was Lana. And so she's the one who sent him home. Yeah. But that doesn't mean someone couldn't, be following John without him realizing it. So
exactly.
Yeah, no, I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was going to come back to play later in this episode. So I'm wondering if that will come back to play later on to, like you said, if she chose John to continue messing with Jordan.
Yep, exactly. And we already gave this away at the top of the show, but did you see the articles on the wall in the hotel room? It's Elizabeth Henstridge from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and she is playing Luther's daughter, also called Elizabeth. That's so weird. And she's directing an episode, like you mentioned already. So very, very cool that she's actually going to have a part to play in this. I wonder how often we're going to get to see her. I wonder if it's going to be a big role or a little guest appearance or what. Is it the episode that she's directing that she's going to be in? Like,
ooh, yeah, all good questions. I don't know. I loved this reveal because I had not seen any of the news, thankfully. Like, I had seen that she was directing, but I did not know that she'd been cast in the show. And so when they panned and I was seeing those things on the hotel room wall, I was like, oh, she's actually in the show. I was like, that's so cool. Then I was like, oh, Elizabeth, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So I totally had that reaction.
And when you look at her, she could be the daughter of this Luther. They've got enough similar facial structure. It could work.
It could work. I could see it. I could see it.
Yeah. And if you guys don't know, I mean, the reason we're so excited about this is because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is one of our favorite shows of all time.
It is. It's a great show.
Yeah. It's just awesome that she's back around. I've missed those characters from that show.
I know. I love her.
I might have to do a rewatch sometime.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's the topic. 7 seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That could be our next cover here.
Oh God, I don't know that I have that stamina right now.
We could do it like every off season from our regular show. Instead of doing a Legends rewatch, we do an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That might be fun.
Do an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe we should finish our Legends rewatch first.
All right, so Jordan faces off against Luther thugs with kryptonite rifles as he busts out of that shipping container. Didn't we discuss it last season if he was susceptible to the same weaknesses as Superman? Because I remember us saying, are we sure? Like, do we know? Because he's half human. Didn't we talked about it. I remember talking about, does he have the same weaknesses or not?
Yeah, we talked about it. And then I do think at some point we actually got that reveal that he was also weak to kryptonite. But I can't 100% recall for sure. Although I am wondering if it's the same scene. So during this scene, we're also having a bit of a flashback. And so I think that Jordan was like flashing back to that scene because he's trying to give himself strength and he's trying to be his father in that moment when he's, kind of really not ready to be. But I also think that moment occurred because Jordan got hit first, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes, you're right. And that's why in Jordan's memory, he was remembering how his dad fought these rifles.
Yeah.
And survived it. So he was trying to mimic him. Yeah, you're right. I thought there was something, though, that it didn't affect him in the same way. There was something different about it. We have to maybe look that up. Or if one of our listeners can remember. There was something was different about him and kryptonite.
Yeah, I do feel like something was different. But now I can't remember, so we'll see. They stick with it.
Okay. So this is where I find him to be the weaker actor of the bunch. He's okay, like he's fine. He's not awful, but his physical acting here was a bit off for me. Trying to fight the beams, I thought it looked a little goofy, and the struggle on his face looked a little goofy. The acting, like. I was like, whatever. I just looked at him and go, you're comparing it to flashbacks of Tyler Hoechlin doing it, and then you go to Jordan doing it, and it's just not the same. He just looked goofy is the word I can think of. Stiff and rigid, and I don't know. It wasn't believable, his physical acting.
No. I mean, I didn't really have that big of a problem with it. I was kind of okay with it. But I mean, that's definitely, if it looks off to you, then yeah, it will take you totally out of the scene. Like I get that. I've definitely had moments like that. I'm like, yeah, that's not believable. I just don't buy it.
Mind you, I mean, I can't knock it too much. Like you pretend to be hit by 5 laser beams and pretend like it's hurting. I guess it's not.
That's hard, and like you're also trying to like push through it at the same time. Yeah, that's like a very, very difficult acting choice. For anyone, let alone this kid's like 19 years old. I mean, he's very young. I see that.
Cyber's joining us on the show tonight. Being very demanding. He hasn't had his dinner yet.
Oh man.
Hey, buddy. All right, well, I also, he's not strong enough to fight these laser rifles. He's not strong enough like his dad yet, and he gets blown backwards. And then they use a sonic weapon to immobilize him.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was trying too hard to be his dad, and he's not, at least not yet. Like, I definitely feel like some of that was that hubris coming back into play. Some of that was just him trying to prove his worth, and then in the end, he was prepared for one thing, but not for another. So,
exactly. But what that does is remind us that Superman himself does have some weaknesses.
Yeah.
Besides kryptonite, like, we know he can't fight magic. In the comic books and the cartoons, he cannot fight magic at all. And we've seen him bend and be crippled to sonic attacks before because he's got super hearing. So you fire a sonic weapon at him, that's tenfold magnitude to him. It hurts. Right. And so here, Jordan's not ready for that type of attack, and Luthor basically cripples him with that sonic device.
Yep. I wonder if that's one of the reasons he wanted the ELT, was that he was trying to build like a sonic weapon.
I bet
on the same like frequency.
Yep, I bet. Yeah, because you could see Jordan's face. He was basically burning up from the inside from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
And like we said, Luthor crushes the heart under his boot right in front of Jordan. That's maniacal. That's ruthless. Like, Luthor does not care at all. He'll do whatever he can to hurt this family.
I know. I felt like that was, I mean, it was brutal. Like, even I found that hard to watch. Yeah. Although I like your theory that that's not really it.
Yeah, so it was a gorilla heart. That's probably what that was, or something.
There you go.
I know. The music, I just want to touch on the music again. Like, all of the music for these scenes, very intense, very scary, very full of gloom and doom type of sound to it. Like, I don't know who's designing the orchestral tracks for this, but they're nailing every emotion that we should be feeling. They're hitting it.
I'm gonna have to look it up, because I want to say it was like a pretty famous composer, one that's done a lot of like these genre shows. I want to say it was like Bear McCreary or something like that, but I could be wrong.
All right, well, while you're looking that up, let's move into our last little section called Dire Times. This is the end of the episode stuff. Luthor lets Jordan go, even though he just threatened to kill him. Lois, you gotta pick a boy, but both of them ended up being let go home. So Luthor's playing games right now, obviously. And Jordan arrives home, realizing he was not ready for the fight, and he starts blaming himself for screwing up their only chance to save Clark, because according to him, the heart's now been crushed. That's what even though I have the theory, we are led to believe the heart is crushed, there's no chance left, Superman's dead, and Jordan blames himself.
I mean, kind of as he should, and I think because everything was so well done, and as you mentioned, like layering the music in. Google also, by the way, says it's Dan Romer is the composer.
Okay.
And it leads you to believe that's exactly what happened. And I didn't even question it for a minute. I was on that journey, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like devastating. He's like super dead now. Like, how are they going to get past this? And like the whole thing. So I like that you're giving me some hope there with your theory.
Yeah, okay. I mean, poor Jordan, like, he's already down and out, but John also pounces on him, saying, "See, he never listens. He's always wrong, and he screws everything up." And like, brothers being brothers, and Lois is like, wait, but
I know
it's an emotional time.
It's very emotional, and I get it. Yeah, he's lashing out because he knew he was powerless to stop Jordan, and he knew Jordan was wrong, and now he's also I think in some ways like feeling that guilt of, why couldn't I just stop him from doing this? Like,
Yeah. And why don't I have powers? I could help him, and like there's so much going on.
It's very complex. Yeah.
Well, and this again is another point where I feel like the pacing was too fast for me. Because when you watch the episode, it feels like this has all happened in a 24-hour period. And yet Lois is like, well, it's time to go say goodbye. Let's go to the fortress. And, we have to go on in life without Clark, without her dad. Okay, more time must have passed than what we've been feeling. It's not just overnight. Like, I feel like there's probably a week that's gone by in this whole occurrence of events, because it just doesn't make sense. The very next night after he dies, you're like, well, let's go say goodbye. It's done. We got to move on. It's just too fast for me.
That part did seem a little abrupt as well. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if time is passing and we haven't really realized it, or if
they didn't establish it properly.
Yeah, exactly. Or if it's like, well, now we know, that he's truly not coming back. So now we were holding out hope that, he would heal himself and that he would return.
Yeah.
But I can also see the flip side of that of, no, we know he's gone and we need to, that they, effectively like bury him, like have their own little funeral. So,
yeah.
Oh, I wonder if they'll do a funeral for a friend.
Yeah,
that's another part of
it. But then they would have to have all the superheroes show up.
Oh, right, and they can't do that. So yeah, they'll probably skip that, or maybe they'll just do their own version, like scaled down version.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe we won't even get to witness it, and they'll just say, "Oh yeah, that was crazy. Batman showed up and Wonder Woman." Like maybe they would just do some name drops.
Yeah.
But this. Actually, didn't we find out that Superman is the only superhero on this planet?
You're right, we did. There's no other superheroes.
Yeah.
So they can do like a version of it, but it won't. Yeah, it can't
just
be
him.
The actual one. Yeah.
You're right.
Gotcha.
Right.
Good point.
So here's my question. Luthor is buying farms all around Smallville. He was looking for the perfect one. Why? What's he up to?
Other than trying to ruin their lives? I don't know. He definitely has an ulterior motive. Definitely involves Brainiac. Some form of research project where he clearly needs space and seclusion. Because why else move to small town USA and buy a farm with acres of land to not farm?
Yeah, exactly. Something's going on there. Maybe he thinks... it could be similar to Smallville. Maybe there's lots of kryptonite there. And he's going to start digging it up, because that is where Clark crashed. And there should be lots of pieces of Krypton with him.
Yeah, well, that's true. And we found out it was chock full of X-kryptonite for a hot minute there. Because they had that whole arc in, season 2?
Season 1, I think.
Oh, was that season 1? Man, yeah, that's going back.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Lana gets the news that Clark is dead. And they couldn't get the heart. Now, this also hits her pretty hard because they've been best friends for their entire lives. Like, she's known Clark since they were little kids. And I don't think she expected to hear that, because she only just found out he's Superman last season.
Yeah, she hasn't known very long.
So, but to understand, she's not dumb. She understands who Superman is and that he shouldn't be able to die. And my best friend's been around my entire life. I just lost both in one shot. It shocked her. She was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then it hits her, and it was a pretty hard moment, too.
Yeah, it was like she was kind of in disbelief, almost as if she was still separating Superman and Clark. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. So Lois and the boys do go to the fortress to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And Clark left a copy of himself in the Kryptonian computer, similar to how Jor-El did, similar to how Lara is doing. And he comes online and says that he can help them from there as much as he's able to, but out in the world, it's going to be just the three of you. And everybody's crying, and I'm crying, and it sucks, and yeah. And they're like, when did you do this? And he said, well, I did this right after we built the fortress, but then you got sick with Lois's cancer, and I never got to, tell you about it or show you guys or anything. So, really,
yeah. But he was in the end hoping that they would never see that, never have to use it.
Never have to. I find that the science of that Kryptonian science, fascinating, that you can somehow upload a perfect copy of your personality into the computer, and then it can react as if it is alive. You can talk to it. It's not programmed. It just talks to you like it is a living version of yourself.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I agree. It's almost like being uploaded into the Matrix, where you live on to infinity.
I wish that was tech that was actually available. Like then I could speak to my mom again. I could put myself into it eventually when the time comes. Like, it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Very, very cool. So, this is truly the saddest possible ending to a superhero story ever. The good guy actually dies, and his family has to go on without him. You don't expect this kind of superhero storytelling. You
don't. And again, I think that's what makes it powerful. I mean, we've had a theme of risks taken and all of that sort of thing. And I think this was a gamble, and I think they did it incredibly well.
Yeah. Big time. So I got some last questions. We got 8 episodes to go. I'm going to fire these off at you, and you give me your answers. How are they going to save Superman? How is he coming back to life? How will they stop Luthor and Doomsday? How can all this happen with only 8 episodes left?
I don't know. I think it's got to have something to do with Brainiac, with that cube. You're right that they're going to have the heart be still somewhere, somehow. I don't know. That's all I got.
I don't know how they're going to save him. I don't know how they're going to stop Luthor and Doomsday, because if Doomsday is still just as strong as he is, how's Superman going to actually come back and fight him? Unless he comes back and we have Steel and we have all the other guys, and it's a 5 against 1. That's really the only possibility, I think.
Yeah, there's like I said, I'm not going to explain what it is, but if anybody else remembers, what I'm remembering, there is a very iconic image at the end of this story arc from the comics of Doomsday specifically.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how and if they back into that.
Right.
It's fascinating, really.
Yeah, totally is. All right. Well, that is it for our discussion for episode 2. We are going to pause for our second ad break. We'll be right back with favorite scenes for the second episode.
Shape out an eagle!
All right, episode 2. Harley, lead us off.
I chose Bar Agenda.
Janet Olson from the Daily Planet wants to do an expose. Can we at least set you up with our social media team?
You're going to give me Superman's heart.
Are you nuts? Jordan is going after Lex Luthor to get your father's heart. Sorry, but my mom was just lecturing me about how scary that man is.
I'm sure Jordan can handle him.
Really? What about what you said last night? You literally said he wasn't ready.
This is the only way we can save my dad.
I want to save your dad too, but going after Luthor is really dangerous and Jordan could get seriously hurt. I mean... Okay, just promise me you'll talk to your mom. Okay.
Where is it?
Not here.
I want it back!
Or what? You're going to kill me? In front of all these people? You're not ready for this. When you make an enemy, you have to commit. So next time you come after me, you better be ready to kill me.
Damn.
We're done here.
Oh, yeah.
And there's that musical cue. Ah, Love it. He's so menacing, but but calm. Just like absolute calm until something like breaks through. And then he's psycho.
And to not be scared of a superpowered being that's got you by their throat.
Like I said, called his bluff.
Wow. Yeah. Crazy.
Called his bluff. It was good.
All right.
Good.
Mine is called Hotel Threat. And this is Lois and John confronting Luthor with another Luthor scene in his hotel room. And he turns the tide on them in that moment, too. This guy's too good.
I know what you did.
You look rattled, Lois.
Let's just go.
You should listen to the boy.
You're mad I took 17 years? I am going to take the rest of your life.
It's the second time today someone from your family has threatened my life.
What are you talking about?
Jordan.
Playing dress up. Like his dad. Superman.
You're wrong.
Enough of your lies. Should have known you were married to Superman. That's why you went after me. To protect your husband. Do you have powers too? Probably for the best. It's a dangerous business being a superhero.
You leave my boys out of this.
You didn't leave my daughter out of it. My daughter lost her father. That is why kids are on the table. And if you or your sons ever set foot on my property again, you won't walk out.
Mom, come on. Let's go.
I'm sorry, but Lois was out of her depths in that scene.
Oh, yeah.
Luthor had her.
Like I said, like he's absolutely insane. He's psychotic, yet she won't back down. So like respect, but also John was right. Like,
yeah,
get the F out.
Yeah. Like this crazy man is threatening us and there ain't nothing stopping him from doing what he's threatening. So
exactly. So, well done.
Yes, well done. All right, we got one more to play from X-Force 11 here, and this one is Not Yet, Superboy.
Jordan? You confronted Lex Luthor about your father's heart?
Dude, you told her?
Don't look at him, look at me.
I was trying to save Dad.
He knows it was you.
What?
Lex Luthor knows who you are now. He knows who your father is.
How?
Because you gave him the pieces he needed to put it together.
Whatever. It doesn't matter anyway.
Are you out of your damn mind? He could go to the Daily Planet, do an interview, post it online.
So what?
So everything this family has done to protect our secret, to live like we have, is over.
Who cares about any of that? All that matters is saving Dad.
That is not what this is about.
Yes, it is. You were the one that said that you couldn't sit around doing nothing. Well, neither could I.
This is not a forest fire, Jordan. This is Lex Luthor.
I can handle him.
No, you can't. You're not ready yet. You are not your father. Not yet. Anyway.
Oh, Mama Lois. Yeah. Keep those
Cheers,
boys in
man.
line.
Oh yeah, that's tough. That is tough.
Yeah. Because I mean, Jordan screwed up everything. He has put their entire family in harm's way now.
Yeah. 100%. Agree.
All his fault. So, will both of these boys survive this season? I don't know. I
don't know.
Can't imagine them killing one of them off, but they just might.
We'll have to see where it goes.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you would like to support the show for Superman and Lois for these last 10 episodes of this fantastic series that are ever going to be shown on TV, you can do that by following this.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
Don't keep it to yourself now. Come on, baby, talk to us. It's feedback. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you watch the video Dan sent us to say thanks for the trophy?
I did. I did.
Isn't he a fun goof?
Oh my gosh, I loved that. That was awesome. So funny.
That's my buddy. He just totally played it up. Just, yeah, good stuff. All right. We have got feedback, and we're going to kick it off with an email from Comic Geek Kev.
Good day, legends. The long national nightmare's finally over. Superman and Lois is back. I'm going to remark on them separately, so I may seem to contradict myself. I apologize for any confusion. Okay. I love the seamless transition from the previously on right into the show. Some of the effects were a little iffy for me, but most were great. A standard this show raises for everyone, for every other TV shows. That last hit with the asteroid explosion, that was epic. Agreed. Hecklin continues to be a great Superman, conveying his disbelief at Doomsday's power and his near exhaustion during the fight. I so appreciated the flashbacks. Not only is it great to see this couple's backstory, it gives us more Hecklin as Clark, even though Superman may be out of the picture. And he does it so earnestly. His Clark is someone you can't help falling in love with. So we get it, Lois. We really do.
Totally. Like
Totally.
I'm not in love with him, like man to man, but I love him as Clark and Superman. It's just he's unbelievable. He is the best ever.
He's so good. I love him.
Yeah.
But Lex, the wig. I'm really enjoying Cudlitz as Lex. He's playing smart, sinister, and obsessed with Lois and revenge, burying Sam rugged. That save scene was pretty cool, but I'm begging you, Jordan, get another costume. LOL. The Bizarro World Superboy suit was spot on. It was a pretty good one. Doomsday bringing back Superman to Smallville via a gut punch.
Via a gut punch, yeah.
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 Milton Brainiac, shout out. Nice. Okay, it was a lowercase b, but I don't recall that connection made anywhere else besides the Smallville show. I may have choked up at the last scene when Lois was over his body. May have, but I'll never tell.
Uh-huh. We cried. Don't worry.
Yeah. Did the town just find out who Superman is? I can't believe Doomsday took his heart. At first, I didn't realize Lois's reaction must have been to the hole in his body.
Yeah, that's right.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, at that moment, she knew that he was gone. Heartbreaking. And Tulloch was amazing, as were the kids. Just incredibly well done.
Yep.
Great episode. 9 out of 10. Return to bad CW wigs.
As to his last question, did the whole town just find out who Superman is? Well, if the whole town consists of only 6 citizens now, then yes.
Then yes. By our estimation, yes.
All right, I'll read the second half. Opening the next episode with closing of the previous so we can sort of see other people's points of view was a great idea. Lana steps right up to try to protect Clark's identity and the family in general. Nicely done, Lana. I'm hoping they are able to give Jonathan a way to really step up to help. It can't all be just about what Jordan can do. It's good that he pointed out the trap of Jordan hearing Clark's heart, but I'd love to see him play a bigger role in taking on Lex or in Superman's resurrection. I hope I didn't spoil anything there for anybody. Speaking of Jordan, confronting Lex without a real plan is very Jordan-y thing to do. And of course, Lex knows it was Jordan. Damn it, Chuck! What's that mean?
And mind your own business.
Mind your own business. I don't know these short forms, fellas. But he said he'd keep the secret. Lex using Clark's voice and threatening the boys, and in such a dark way. Dang, that's a new low. Clever, honestly, but dark AF. Dark as boop. Yep.
Yeah, I was like, wait, don't say that one out loud.
And then, of course, Jonathan walks in immediately after. So who did she choose? And stomping on the heart, some cold-blooded stuff. Amazing reaction from Garfin. Yeah, that scream was blood-curdling. I'll give him that. I'll give him that.
Well, it was good.
Yeah. Laura said Clark couldn't grow new organs, but might he have been able to regenerate that one? That's the question. I mean, you could open heart surgery, put this heart back in, sew him up, and see what his body does.
Yeah.
It's possible. So my theory holds true. The heart's still out there. After Sarah told Lana about the heart, her reaction was the one I originally expected from her. I guess she really was holding out hope. Beautiful scene in the fortress. Even though it's not the same, it's kind of comforting that they would have the AI Clark, not AR Clark. Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. I think it would be so cool because you could have all of your past loved ones and just hang out with them.
Yeah.
Mom, I need some advice. Even though she's been gone for 40 years, I could still ask for help, right?
Yeah, that would be cool.
Another amazing episode. 9.5 out of 10. Broken hearts. Sorry, too soon. Ouch. Ouch, Kevin. How dare you? I cannot wait for the podcast. Until next time, Comic Geek Kev.
Well, here we are.
Here we are. Next up is Dad L.
Hello, Dad L here, last father of Krypton. Well, this has been a while. This kind of feels strange, leaving feedback for Superman and Lois, but I'm looking forward to this final season. Of course, as always, the show has had great performances. That has never been an issue with this show. The only thing that I'm a little worried about is that we're going with another death and resurrection of Superman storyline. Of course, that was done recently in the Snyderverse and the recent animated movies. So wasn't thrilled with that, but of course it's going to give us great performances. The only thing I hope they find a balance to, since this is the final season, I want to see a lot of Supes in action, but they have to make him dead for long enough to feel the weight of it, to feel the world without Superman kind of theme. So I'm kind of torn. So it'll be interesting to see how the showrunners balance that. It has the emotional weight of Superman's death is being earned, I think, presently with the 2 episodes that we've got, but you probably need to go a little bit more at the same time. I just want to quickly say this version of Lex is no holds barred. I really like this version. The actor is great. I like how he has jumped right in. He's been in prison for 17 years, and the kid gloves are off. There's no fooling around. There's no toying with the Kent family. He is all in against them. So once again, it's great to be back. Looking forward to going through this season with you all. I'm going to give these 2 episodes 8 Bad Arrowverse wigs. Dad L out.
Always with the wigs, fellas. But yeah, it's good to hear from you again, Dad L. I hope everybody starts coming out of the woodworks for this final season, and it has been a very long time, like a really excessively long time. So
I know, like we kept stuff going with other things, but I know not everybody's always interested in that. So
yeah, I mean, we fit in a full other show in between this and last season, and then some. Didn't we do Legends season 3 and Tomorrow People
and Jupiter's Legacy?
And Jupiter's Legacy. You're right. We did 3 shows since waiting for this one. My God, that's been way too long. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys haven't forgotten about us. Whew.
Agreed. Thank you for coming back.
Yeah. Well, maybe once we get this one out on the airwaves, people will start going, oh yeah, and they'll want to get in on it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're not done yet. We got one more. Mr. Perry White.
Hey, fam. Still, Perry here to get into that fantastic cinematic season 4 premiere of Superman and Lois. I usually stay away from ratings, but I'm giving these 2 episodes 10 out of 10, no notes, above the fold, front page, special edition of the Daily Planet. So let's go. Here are my takeaways. That Sophie's choice that Lois had to make in terms of which son she wanted to save, that's going to be some kind of fallout between John and Jordan, I suspect, when I'm going to imagine Lex is going to bring it to their attention in his efforts to tear the family apart. By the way, who do you think that Lois wanted to save? Obviously, the easy choice would say that she wanted to save John because she figured Jordan could take care of himself. But something tells me there's going to be a twist in the plot somewhere, and I can't wait to see it. The other thing is, it looks like Lex will use Clark's heart or his DNA or whatever it is to turn Milton into this show's version of Brainiac. I don't know exactly how I feel about that yet. I like the OG Brainiac's origins, and I'm going to give the show credit when they've decided to sort of put a twist on some sort of origin. They've usually pulled it off, so we'll see what happens here. Another takeaway. So when and why would Clark have created an AI of himself? I have to assume and imagine he suspects, rightfully so, that he would have outlived everyone in his life. So why make an AI to sort of serve as his stand-in if that didn't happen? I don't know. Maybe it was the sort of experience he had with Lois and her cancer that made him rethink about whether he'd be around forever. I mean, really, the only person who would have come close in his family to sort of living as long as he had would have been Jordan. And again, it'll be interesting to see if they talk about or explain why he created an AI of himself. But narratively, it's an effective and innovative way for Tyler Hoechlin to remain part of this show. So that's pretty freaking cool.
Yep.
Another thing, apologies to Margot Kidder, but let's be honest, Elizabeth Tulloch is now the definitive version of Lois Lane, in my opinion. She turned in a Herculean narrative effort last season with the cancer storyline, and this season she's basically said, hold my freaking beer. With Clark's death and her son spiraling out of control and sort of the weight of the world on her shoulders, Elizabeth Tulloch has delivered a fantastic Lois Lane, basically touching on her humor, her grief, her heartache. I mean, every facet, every emotion you could possibly imagine she's brought to the screen. She's freaking clearly this show's MVP, and I love her for it. Another thing, finally, with Lex finding out about Superman's true identity, I think that when Clark returns, fingers crossed, right, that he's going to figure out a way, or is going to try to take away that sort of power that Lex would have over him by having that secret, by knowing that secret identity. And I know that, like, the showrunners have said that this show is probably going to do something that no other Superman property has done before. And I quite honestly feel like we're going to get to a situation where Clark Kent reveals his identity to the world. That's sort of the only way to thwart Lex Luthor from knowing the secret, and that's sort of really the only thing in Superman lore that I don't think any other property has done. So it would sort of make sense for this show going out in its final season for this version of Superman to reveal his secret identity. So I guess we'll see.
Interesting.
It's a good theory.
Postscript. This is something else I thought about. So, the word is the finale of this show will honor the Arrowverse in some way. I don't necessarily know how I feel about that. The show is certainly part of the Arrowverse, and that's great. However, I think the best decision that Superman and Lois made was not placing this show on Earth Prime, giving them the freedom to tell their own story. It'll be interesting to see what they do to sort of honor the Arrowverse, but sort of cameos don't make a whole lot of sense because they would be, you know, people, characters, whatever the case may be, that nobody on this show knows. Sort of, really, I feel like the only way that would make sense for this show to pay homage or sort of put a bow on the Arrowverse would be for somehow maybe the Monitor or the Spectre to sort of be peeking in, you know, like a cosmic being, maybe sort of like Marvel's The Watcher, sort of peeking in into this Earth and sort of like smiling, saying that they've done a good job as the screen goes black for the series finale. I guess we're all going to find out. Anyway, those have been my thoughts. And Great Caesar's Ghost, it feels good to have Soups and Low back. I'm out.
That it does, Perry. That it does. And I'm with you on Bitsy for sure. She is the definitive Lois now. And I hate to say it. I know there's a lot of Christopher Reeve lovers out there. Me too. But I think Tyler Hoechlin has taken the role as his own. This is the best version of Superman we have ever gotten. And we've gotten to grow with him and learn with him and see his life, you know, like I said, after a story we never know. So I guess you could combine. You could probably put Christopher Reeve and him together on the same platform. Christopher Reeve got to do the entire origin story up to the point where him and Lois get married and kind of start their life together. Tyler Hoechlin grabs that torch and says, "Thank you, Mr. Reeves. I'm going to carry on the legacy. I'll make you proud." And he is.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. Thank you so much for coming around and being with us for the beginning of this. I really hope you guys are with us all season long, because we need to share this experience, guys. This is it. After these episodes,
That's it.
We're done.
I know.
So,
get your thoughts in.
Yes, get your thoughts in. And this is the time to spread the word too. Like the best way to share podcasts is to tell people about it. Oh, you watch Superman and Lois? Well, I got a podcast for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple as that, guys. Hopefully you guys are still talking to friends and coworkers about TV shows you watch. You know, the old water cooler moments. So, all right. In order to get feedback in like you guys did, this is how they did it.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to Tomorrow's Legends Podcast at gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at Tomorrow's Legends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/Tomorrow's Legends and become part of the community.
You know what, Harley?
What's that?
I think we just broke a record.
What?
Longest Legends episode we've ever done. Just you.
Is it?
We're over
Really?
3 hours.
Well, yeah, it's after midnight here.
Yeah, I don't think
And
you and
I
me
have
have
to be
ever
up in-
recorded a 3-hour podcast on this show before.
With just us? I don't know. I don't know if we have.
I mean, we
I'm
cheated.
feeling my 6 a.m. wake up. But.
Yeah, we did cheat. We did cover 2 episodes in one, but oh well, who's counting logistics, right?
I mean, they billed it as a 2-hour premiere.
Yes.
It's,
So, and it's the last 10 episodes we're ever going to see of the show, so we have to honor it by covering it properly. So,
I mean, it was very great. There was a lot to dig into and a lot to discuss.
yeah.
So,
And you stayed awake the whole time, so good job.
I did, yeah. I'm feeling shockingly awake.
And
See how I feel tomorrow.
Yeah, both of us, yeah. But it only happened once. After that, we'll be back to regular 42-minute episodes and much shorter shows. So
Yes.
we'll look forward to getting back into it with everybody else. We'll talk to you in a week. Everybody have a good and happy Thanksgiving from Canada.
Oh, happy Canadian Thanksgiving.
Yeah. We'll talk to everybody soon. This is The Flash signing off.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, HBO, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network. Be sure to check out our partner shows, The Mandalore and Dive into DC, covering your favorite Star Wars and DC Comics properties. Thanks for listening.